And good morning, everyone, and welcome to Grand Final day at the G as we look back on a fantastic season of footy and, of course, look ahead to this afternoon. Not a lot of games of experience in terms of on-field here, but a lot of games watched and a lot of big stories broken and talked about from our panel. It's great to have Andy Marr from Channel 10, but also we've put them together, Caroline Wilson from The Age and Mike Sheehan from The Herald. Welcome, everyone.
Morning, Anthony.
Hello.
Andrew and Caroline.
Mike.
Morning, team. We've travelled a very different road, but we've got to the same result, haven't we?
Isn't it
2 years in a row?
Fascinating that these two are actually finally making their commercial TV debut alongside one another after all these years.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Some suggest it would never actually happen.
What is it? There's some tension, is there?
Well, there's all sorts of industry speculation about you and your former role as the voice of reason and expertise on talking footy, and the fact that Caro, of course, took over from you in that revered seat.
Let me
I
put
thought you asked us on air to talk about real stories.
Well, this is a story that needs some smoothing out, I reckon.
Andy, let me just put it to rest. We are colleagues in the noble art of journalism. We're happy to be working on the same panel.
Well, that's
we
wonderful.
do get on a lot better after the last day in September, though, don't we? Our friendship's better over summer.
It wasn't what you said, Mike, to us before the show started. But anyway, let's talk about some real stories, as Caro puts it. And today, I mean, there's always a story right to the very end, isn't there, with Grand Final Day? And Daniel Kerr, the question about, is he fit? Will he play? With Punda as well. What do you think, Caro?
Well, Sydney have been told to expect a late change. They're determined that there will be a change in the team that's been named in all the papers. Daniel Kerr has an issue with his calf, and I know last year he got injured during the game, but what a terrible, terrible sports story if for the second year in a row one of the best midfielders in the competition isn't playing at full strength.
But why would he not play? I mean, we saw him last week, bouncing around as fit. He looked totally fit last week. And they would have done nothing with him this week to stress him at all. I don't think there's any doubt at all on Kerr.
I'm just quoting what I've read in all the papers.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Surely this is a case of story deprivation. There hasn't been a major story going into this grand final. We've been searching for one desperately, and we're going with Kerr as the
And there's a hint about Wipunda because it's the hamstring, and whoever knows how long that needs to recover. That was the one yesterday that had, in my view, most credibility, that there might be a doubt on Wirra.
Well, not many people miss only one game for a hamstring. They often say, that's only a small thing, but not many actually only miss 1 week. I think with Kerr, the thing is, he'll play, but how strong how much can he do on his right leg? Training exclusively on the left, had a couple of kicks on his right and was in a bit of pain.
Hutto, at this time of year, the training's immaterial. He's had this for 5 weeks and they've managed it beautifully, and he's in my view, he's certainly.
I hope you're right.
And yet they put the GPS on Wirrapunda in the last major session over at Subi before the game, and I'm not sure what the reason was. West Coast didn't actually say what the reason was, but clearly the indications from those that know why they use those systems is to see how much ground he actually covered in that training session and at what speeds and what running rates he actually performed in that session. So they were very careful to scientifically monitor exactly what Wirrapunda did in that last
session. There has been another pretty big story, Hutto, this week.
Darren
Jolly's baby.
You poo-pooed, didn't you?
You did last Sunday. You called it actually, quote, tosh.
Tosh.
I said it was tosh that he would miss a grand final, and proven right yet again.
Oh, again.
You said that she wouldn't have the baby for another 3 weeks.
No, I said she's due in 3 weeks. Why are they making a big issue out of this? This team that is such a collective team and not meant to have any individuals in it, although they did win a ground ball on Monday night.
It's a great story.
It's a great story, and I said it was a great story. I said it was tosh that this bloke would miss a game of football to be there for the birth of his child. I promise you, whatever happened, barring any life-threatening
I think we all agree with that, but it is a fantastic story. A bloke in a grand final having a baby born 48 hours before the event.
And we're all very happy that it's already happened so he can play the game, because Paul Roos would have made him play whatever happened.
What are the other stories? What are the other stories you're looking for today? Out of is it Roosie, or is it Worsfold and this criticism about the coaching and the style? What are we looking for today in the game, other than a great match?
According to the other number one caller at Channel 10, Hutto, it's going to be a draw. I think that'll be a fairly big story. Steve Quartermain predicted
Don't tell me that.
Last night.
Well, if you're going to tip a draw ever, which is a ludicrous thing to do, I think a lot of tipsters would subscribe to that theory. But if you're ever going to tip a draw, this is probably going to do it.
It is. I saw the show last night on 10, and in fact, it is only 25-1 the draw.
Exactly.
Now, some people believe that it's a real chance, and they've put significant money on it.
TAB Sportsbet stand to lose $250,000 on the draw. It is their biggest loss. If the draw gets up, that is the biggest pain that they will suffer on the punt in this game today.
And the AFL will reap very big dividends. All right, we're going to talk about the year that's gone past, and a lot of the stories, of course, are still ongoing, such as Jason Ackermanis and Peter Everett. But just to refresh everyone's memory before we discuss them, let's look back at another amazing year in the world of football news.
As always, the players were in the headlines in 2006, and not always for the right reasons. Chris Tarrant and Ben Johnson each copped $5,000 fines from the Pies after being involved in a late-night scuffle that was investigated by police. Coach Malthouse not happy with the resulting intense media scrutiny.
I've had a gutful, and I reckon other people have had a gutful. Now, just work it out. Pretty quick, smart. That's it. OK?
High-price recruit Jonathan Hayes' poor form saw him drop from the Roos. The former All-Australian eventually standing down for the rest of the season after bravely going public on his battle with depression.
This illness has directly affected my form and at times my well-being and behaviour off the field.
After a series of discipline breaches, Michael Gardner's playing days with the Eagles came to an end after he crashed his vehicle into 2 parked cars, whilst power ruckman Dean Brogan landed himself in trouble for punching a heckler at the airport.
Very sore. It's like a train hit it.
But it was Brownlow medalist Ben Cousins that caused the biggest stir when he ran from his car after abandoning the vehicle near a booze bus. A $900 police fine, not the worst of it for Cousins.
So I've decided to stand down as captain of the West Coast Eagles Football Club.
The positive came from the elevation of Chris Judd to take over the Eagles' captaincy. His football was quite simply incredible.
Another mesmerising run from Chris Judd.
The competition in awe of a man only 23 years of age.
I mean, Judd's one of the all-time greats.
Injuries hit hard. The Bulldogs lost Darcy, Hahn and Murphy to knee reconstructions, whilst Matthew Lloyd's season finished in round 3 with a serious hamstring injury.
Is that a hamstring?
Lloyd's teammate Adam Ramanauskas announced cancerous growths had returned to his neck and shoulder.
I've just got to keep picking myself up and keep getting on with my life.
A severe neck injury sustained by Pie, Blake Carosella, brought his career to a close. Whilst young Cat Tom Lonergan's football future is in doubt after losing his right kidney.
Great shepherd from Gian Syracuse put Kaczynski down.
This incident was the start of a run of terrible bad luck for Justin Kaczynski, who later fainted on air on national television, then ran into an umpire playing in the VFL.
Gave it to Kuda. Tight angle. Bends it back. Oh, what a kick!
Oh. Legends of the game such as Kuda, Feedy's, Archer and Hurd gave fans something to cheer about by announcing they would all play on in 2007. And why wouldn't they?
Oh, he has done it magnificently.
Ian Collins called it quits from Carlton, whilst the Hawks ushered in new president Jeff Kennett, who gave the coach his seal of approval and a new contract.
Just very, very honoured to be able to coach the club for a further 2 years.
The style of football being played came under the microscope. Uncontested possessions and lots of chip kicks. Teams taking 9 kicks to get it from centre-half back to centre-half back. Was this football or...
I called it huddle ball. Basketball, soccer, you can actually call it whatever you like.
You know, we're getting closer to Gaelic football all the time.
On the flip side, the Doggies emerged in 2006, playing an exciting brand of fast, flowing, attacking footy.
Back to Cooney. Electrifying play from the Dogs. Cooney goes all the way. Magnificent stuff.
Equally impressive, the Dockers. Before the mid-season break, Freo and their coach looked gone. After it, they were on, winning their last 9 straight home and away games.
You are a genius.
With the Dockers and Eagles flying, the round 21 derby was billed as the biggest match ever played in WA. The cash-strapped Kangas said goodbye to home games in Canberra, following the pot of gold to the Gold Coast, whilst the Saints pulled the pin on their Tassie experiment, but not before one of the year's biggest stories unfolded at York Park.
The siren's already sounded. They were saying they heard the siren.
The siren's already sounded, but they did not hear it.
Coaches, players and umpires all had a point of view. Stephen Baker had 2 shots to win the game, but missed both, as it all ended in a draw.
We all know what happened.
I thought the siren sounded.
And it was a great win for our club.
The AFL Commission eventually forced to rule on the result.
The effect of this interpretation is that the Fremantle Football Club won the match.
And then, of course, there was Jason Ackermanis.
Probably shouldn't have said that, but...
No, Acker, possibly not. The saga started with a Brisbane superstar in trouble on the field.
Oh, he's backslapped him.
Acker got reported, then dragged, then gagged, but kept on talking, sometimes about the coach.
We haven't had any conversations, so, you know, that's not like, but that's not unusual, that's normal.
At the same time, there were rumours of a Brisbane mole.
I'd like to get a hold of the person who's doing it and unleash some fury.
Eventually, the captain delivered the bad news.
Jason Ackermanis has been omitted from the team this weekend due to his lack of form and his inability to meet team disciplines.
And the next big story? Quite possibly, where to next for that man Acker.
So many stories, hard to know where to begin as we begin our look back on the year. Caroline Wilson, what was the biggest?
Ackermanis is still going. Coaches' sackings are always big. We'll come to them later, but definitely for mine, Siren Gate. I mean, that story was the most dramatic close to a footy match I think I've ever seen, and the result was an even bigger story because in an unprecedented move, the Commission put sportsmanship ahead of the rules. It was a fantastic story, and we saw it played out right up until the finals when St Kilda sacked their coach, Grant Thomas. They didn't make the top four. They would have had they got those 2 points, and Freo finally had a victory, and psychologically that had a big impact on that footy team.
Will it have any long-term implications for the game, do you think, Mike?
Siren Gate?
Siren Gate.
No, they'll just make the sirens better. Make sure that they work. I think in all the years I've been doing this, the best story of any year involving any club and any person is the sacking of a coach, particularly when there's been no hint of it. And I thought the Thomas thing was just the most stunning story to me of the entire season, because I had no idea it was coming, and St Kilda just moved swiftly after it, contesting the finals and just chopping the coach as quickly and as summarily as we could imagine.
The Herald Sun likes bloodshed, the Age likes sportsmanship.
I knew this was going to happen.
It's on already.
I knew it was going to happen. It was always going to happen.
We like that story too, Mike. So we've allocated a whole 15 minutes to coaches a little bit later on.
Just on the run.
So let's talk about some of the stories that...
It's still the biggest story in my view of the season.
No, fair enough.
Whatever category you put it in, Ed.
Where does the demise of the Carlton, and maybe this is a bit too close to my heart for me to be objective about it, where does the demise of the Carlton Footy Club sit in terms of the big stories that are run through?
Look, it is. It's a huge story, Carlton, because the problem is that they're getting worse instead of better.
Yeah,
and I think if we saw some light at the end of the tunnel, I must say at the end of the footy season, I thought that on field there were some hints of sunshine. But
you have to look hard, I reckon. I know a lot of people from outside Carlton are suggesting that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but you have to look really hard for it, I reckon.
Well, at the moment, there's more darkness. I mean, we're hearing that Brett Thornton wants a new home. 22-year-old
That's extraordinary, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
Well, just the fact that they could, in their current situation, lose one of their young, talented players.
But they're always at risk. If another club, in this case Hawthorn, comes along and offers someone a 50 to 60% pay rise and longer security, well, of course he's going to be at risk.
I think there are a few other clubs that have spoken to him too. I know Richmond have spoken to him, or his manager. And we've got a board situation where the AFL are telling them to streamline the board, or subtly telling them to streamline the board. The board doesn't want to do that. There's a fairly scathing report that's just come out from the AFL-appointed CEO, Jim Watts, about their board practices and commercial practices. And you've also got a situation where the coach has supposedly got another 2 years, but they're refusing to sack the bloke who allegedly tried to knife him. It's a very, very
I'm sure it was written in your paper as well that Brad Fisher was out and he was a chance of not re-signing, and that Jordan Russell, another top 10 pick that they've taken to a national draft, Port Adelaide have expressed interest in him, and he's not necessarily happy with some of the treatment that he's received at the Carlton Footy Club. So speculation is that they might lose another top tenner.
What about a happy story? Fremantle's turnaround.
Yes. Yeah, great story, Freo. And it's only 3 months ago that we thought that where is this footy club going and what's the future for Chris Connolly? And they've ended up perfectly placed. They won a final, they've had a taste of it. I think the future looks really rosy for them.
And a Kevin Sheedy-like speech by Cameron Swab to the masses in the hotel afterwards, saying not acceptable and have to go on from there.
Yeah, and I mean, that's predictable. You'd expect him to do that, but I think that they have done very well for what they've got.
And similar from Rodney Eade too, after the Bulldogs' performance in Perth, which is another great story.
He's going to get a very long contract. They are so happy with him. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I'm sure that St Kilda would have been knocking on Rodney Eade's door if he hadn't been secured by the Doggies. And they've got Luke Darcy coming back next year. They've got so many players had brilliant years. They had so many dreadful injuries. I mean, that was the best story about the Bulldogs, that they were able to do what they did with so many good players out.
Well, you talked about next year, and we talked briefly about Jason Ackermanis. Is he the right fit for them?
As every day goes by, his currency becomes diluted. He's behaved appallingly, in my view, in Melbourne this week. He went on the Footy Show the other night and said I wasn't the leak, and alluded to the fact that it was assistant coach Darren Creswell.
Who is meant to be great friends with.
So, my understanding is one of the reasons Creswell fell out with Lee Matthews was because he stuck up for Jason Ackermanis. He's had a major crack at Jonathan Brown in this sort of where our team next year is going to poleaxe your team.
Is it enough to make Rodney Eade nervous enough to change his mind, Mike?
I know I was in Perth when Rocket Eade saw the quotes in the Good Weekend magazine about what Jason Ackermanis said about Lee Matthews, dictator and bully, and Rodney wasn't happy with him.
And yet you're a subscriber to the view that he will, once he gets busy and he gets back into the system and starts training again, you're going to get a year or two of outstanding on-ground service from the man.
I've got no doubt in my own mind that Ackermanis will be a star next year wherever he plays, because the history says the blokes who are extroverted like he is, in their first year at a new club, they put their head down and they do what they do best naturally, and I reckon he'll be a star.
What about Spider? Is it done and dusted in Sydney? Will Hawthorn play ball?
This is the team that has no ... heads, isn't it? I mean, he has left Hawthorn under a very dark cloud. He left St Kilda on a very dark cloud. He looked into the barrel of before the game last night and said, St Kilda, please take me back.
Well, he can be a veteran at St Kilda, which I don't think St Kilda will go for him, but that does mean there is some financial advantage there.
I think the Sydney deal, which was seen to be set in stone, I don't think it's in stone any longer.
Sydney would have big doubts about the way he's behaved since he's sort of gone onto the market.
Ruckman are in demand, though, at the moment, aren't they? There's a lot of clubs. Carlton, St Kilda need one. Adelaide now need one.
He's 32, 33 with an injury cloud, as well as a personality cloud. I think he's in trouble.
I knew there was a lot of stories for us to talk about. We've got to take a break. Then, Mike, we'll get on to coaches next. So you'll have your time to talk about Grant Thomas.
Do we have rundowns on this program?
No, we're making it up as we go along. But we're going to take a break right now. Of course, we are leading up to the big game this afternoon, and Ashley Hansen could be a very important player for the Eagles. Let's get his thoughts as we go to the break.
That's why you get up at 6 a.m. and go for runs and have to do the ice spins and all the hard stuff that I suppose comes with the job. And after getting so close last year, for me personally, it's been a goal. And the tempo is another step up again on the prelim. I mean, the prelim is a madhouse out there, and then the grand final is another notch because blokes are just willing to do anything, I suppose, to win the footy and to help their mates out. And at the end of the day, the most committed side wins the grand final, and I suppose that's why the tempo is so high.
I guess there'll only be one coach smiling at the end of the day. Will it be Paul Roos or John Worsfold? Welcome back to the MCG as we continue our build-up to the big game this afternoon. Well, we're looking back on the season, and if you're looking back on big stories, you have to talk about coaches. Let's recap for you the year in moves and what might be ahead for our coaches.
Coaching, it's a very tough caper. You can take your team to 3 straight final series and still get the chop.
I don't agree with it, accept it or believe it's right, but that being said, I respect the decision that's been made.
So what does it take to become part of this select group?
There's only 16 coaches in the competition, all of us lunatics, I suppose.
You said it, Clarko. The men in charge can actually be very helpful.
And I think you're in the way of the camera, mate, so you should move.
I'm not going to finish here, by the way, until you've all said that's it.
They calmly answer the most ridiculous questions.
Who? Judd Rules.
Oh, sorry. Slip up.
Wrong club, champ.
Questions that most mere mortals couldn't follow.
Do you think it was then, I suppose, a more honest result that you lost today, or, I mean, what, in terms of how you played? Do you think it was more, I don't know, it's fair that you didn't win?
The best team won?
Yeah.
Best team won, yeah.
But eventually...
I'm tired. Is that enough?
Enough is indeed enough.
Well, let me put it this way. At the moment, you feel you are testing the patience of your fans.
What's that got to do with the question you asked a minute ago?
Hello?
The lights on?
But you're saying we should kick the ball long.
I think you've said that in the past too.
You just said we should kick the ball long. Go.
Well, what should you do? Tell us. What's the game?
Well, you asked a question, I'll answer the question. What are you talking about?
I've got a gut for it.
Mick has been known to get pretty hot under the collar.
I'm not prepared to say anything about their injuries.
Why?
Well, because I don't want it.
But Mad Mick can also be Merry Mick.
I've asked upstairs whether you would do that, whether you would smile after that big win. There you go, Malcolm, there's your answer.
Lucky it wasn't you, Malcolm. I couldn't possibly have done it.
The senior brigade has been round long enough to deal with the so-called pressure.
Been under pressure all my life. I've been married for 26 years. How much pressure do you need?
They can pretty much say whatever they want.
Collingwood are the best. They've got probably, I think, 5,000 more. But they've probably got 5,000 more nuffs anyway, so the nuffs will always go.
Dennis even has his own paganisms.
If your auntie had whiskers, she'd be your uncle. Have you ever had a dance with your sister? You know, someone told me this morning, Andrew Marr and SEN said it. Fair dinkum, he must be drinking his bathwater, Andrew Marr.
Terry Wallace is the ultimate media performer.
Really, this competition's going to be about winning the close games, isn't it? I mean, that's the main thing. So it's obviously an Essendon supporter outside.
And when Terry and his Tigers come under attack...
You can play that basketball crap all the time. That's why I don't play basketball.
He's always got the perfect response. Whilst some coaches prefer to muddy the waters.
Chief Wild Eagle was giving directions and he said, you know, turn left at the rock that looks like a bear and turn right at the bear that looks like a rock. And it just ends up, you don't know where you're going or what you're doing.
Just getting out of their eggs, if you like, and breaking free of their eggshells and moving their bum a bit and get their head out. And we know that it takes some time to be able to walk and run and actually flap your wings.
But in the end, it's just a game, which thankfully we can all laugh about.
Does it get annoying?
No, because you have perspective on the industry. I've been in AFL football since 1981. Were you born then? You were just born.
1981.
Tell you what, I could be your father. And I'll be kicking your butt with some of those questions you're asking, let me tell you.
Well, they do entertain us at least sometimes during the year. The coaches is our focus at the moment. Mike Sheehan, who's been the coach of the year, do you think?
Just thinking, watching it, they're an interesting group, aren't they? I don't know why they do it. It's like sort of volunteering to have about 10 kids under the age of 15 for 6 months. But I was pleased to see some animation from John Worsfold. He's alive and well.
There's something addictive about it, though, isn't it? People in our part of the industry, we hang on, whether we like them or not, we do hang on every word they say.
I thought Dennis had some really good words to say about Andrew in there too.
He did. You drink your own bathwater. That's a bit insulting, but you've been a Carlton bagger all year. Supporters are always cruelest to their own teams.
That's because we feel...
Watching that, I realise why you and I rarely go to post-match press conferences.
No, that's chicken and egg, isn't it? If we went, would they be any better? Probably not. Back to your question, Anthony. I think the coach of the year for me, this is predictable, but it won't be decided until 5:15 tonight. I think the team that wins the flag is entitled to have the coach of the year.
That is predictable, Mike.
But yes, it is, and I'm going to add something to that. Right. After West Coast were at home to the Western Bulldogs and should have won, would have been 5s on probably, and Rodney Eade conjured a win over there. I remember writing the story that Eade was a genius. Now, that was mid-season, and I wouldn't back away from that. I think he's got the capacity to change a game quicker and more often than any other coach in the competition.
Regardless of what happens today, Eade's my coach of the year and Paul Roos is runner-up and Neil Craig would be in the top 4 as well.
Where's Chris Connolly for you two?
Oh, he's done a magnificent job too.
I mean, he was gone...
Nudging the top 4.
Nudging the top 4.
Well, Bush has got to get into the top 4.
I would have thought so. He might be the premiership coach in 5 hours'
It's
time.
interesting, but he's got the best team. It's interesting, there's been a few queries over him. Robert Walls has been pretty critical of some of John Worsfold's moves, particularly in the final.
But Robert Walls criticises lots of people. I mean, you wouldn't sack him on Wallsy having a deputy.
I'm not sacking him. This is not my coach of the year.
Can we talk, we've enough of the positives, let's get into the negative stories.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to get negative. Next year, half of the 16 coaches are under the pump. Dennis Pagan has got another 2 years to go, but he might be gone before the start of next year. Mark Williams has only got a year left at Port Adelaide, and we know he's maybe keen on coming to Melbourne. Alistair Clarkson has 2 years, but I reckon there could be an option on that 2-year deal. Kevin Sheedy and Mick Malthouse, 2 of the great coaches in the past 2 decades, might both be gone. Who else?
Neil Danaher?
Neil Danaher has 1 more year at Melbourne, and we keep hearing that he's been linked to Essendon. We also hear that he may be even offered this year to step aside, questioning whether he was the best man for the job. We've got Mark Williams, I've said, Sheedy and Malthouse. Bomber Thompson, well, he's got one more year to go and there has to be question marks over him. It's going to be very busy come next August, September.
What about Grant Thomas' story, Mike? You said it was the biggest one of the year for you.
Yeah, it was to me. And look, I'm not saying that the decision was incorrect, but it was so stunning to me that it just came out of the blue and was done after. And given St Kilda's history, I mean, they would, in relative terms, have to be happy with what they've done under Thomas, particularly in the last 3 years. But he's gone, and they've decided that Thomas wasn't going to take them to what they believe is their destiny. And they've done it in most un-St Kilda-like fashion, haven't they? They've come in, made a hard decision, and executed it in a day.
Before I get your pick on who will be the coach, Caro, Andy, how have the players reacted?
Everybody's picked the bones out of the Thomas story as best as they can, and I'm sure we've all heard different stories. The most stunning story about it all was Nick Ruvalt's alleged reaction to it all. Broke down in tears, cried on Grant Thomas's shoulder. And the story was, and it's completely unsubstantiated, but we'll throw it out because that's what people in the industry tend to do.
Hey, we're journos.
The story was that he was so upset about the Thomas sacking and the way it was delivered that he got on the phone to his manager and said, I want out of this joint. And the dust settled on that pretty quickly. They all went off to Thailand together. A lot of the young blokes who were most upset about the Thomas sacking had to get away from it all. But he was desperately unhappy about that.
The dust settled within 48 hours.
Yeah, very resilient, Andrew. Young players are very resilient and they'll adjust to the new circumstances pretty quickly.
Who's going to be the coach, Mike, next year?
I would think John Longmire if I had to take a pick now.
You wrote the Gary Lyons story in there, and the Age has certainly written it as well. Is he genuinely in the mix?
He's closer than he's been. Now, I think he needs to make a philosophical decision about whether he wants to be a coach, and if he does, he turns 40 next year, he is going to have to get into the system, and more and more by the day, he's going to have to become an assistant coach before he becomes a senior coach.
Caro, we need to take a break, so can we get an answer from you?
I don't think it will be Gary Lyon, whether or not he puts his hand up. I think it'll be John Longmire. And one coach I left out was Dean Laidley. He must also be under the pump next year too.
All right, there's still a lot to talk about. We're going to be back with more from the MCG as we go to the break. Let's check in with one of the young Swans. He's making his grand final debut today, Nick Melcheski.
I was actually talking with Mum. Mum was up on the weekend, and she was like telling me how when I was 5, I used to kick the footy out the front, pretend I was in a grand final, and sort of I think about it now, and I'm actually going to be playing in one, and that was like 15 years ago, and winning the premiership would be everything. I couldn't think of anything better.
Sydney by 4. Taikanelli did it well, saw the option in the pocket, went for it. Leo Barry, slow it down. So Leo Barry in the back pocket. Heads along the boundary line. Oh, good mark by Cox. Cox throws it onto the left. One last roll of the dice for the Eagles! Leo Barry, you star! Bob Murray reincarnate. The longest premiership drought in football history is over. For the first time in 72 years, the Swans are champions of the AFL.
Still gets you tingling, doesn't it, watching that? 12 months on. Where do you rate that grand final, Mike?
That's the best sports story that I've been associated with.
The best?
Yep. Yeah.
You've been around a long time, Mike.
Yeah. 3 hours of just high drama, and it was just unbelievable, the tension that we all felt during that afternoon. And then there was a little icing on the cake. At the finish, I was sitting 2 up from Sandra Sully, and I got a kiss from her. So why wouldn't it be the best day of my life?
No wonder it was the best one. Caro, were you emotional watching that game?
It made me cry. It's the only, well, apart from 1972 when I was 12 and I cried for very different reasons. It was unbelievable. All the way through the last quarter, I could not believe that Sydney would get up. West Coast were such a great team. And, you couldn't pick it anyway through, could you? Although I see now why Steve Quartermain's got the gig again this year. He picked Leo Barry a few seconds before, didn't he, in the back pocket?
That was a great call. It was.
But, and then to watch Bob Skilton and those blokes walk onto the ground. And for Paul Roos, I mean, he said, I was disappointed to hear that he'd actually rehearsed it, but, here it is. To all you fans who've been waiting 72 years, that was a wonderful speech.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I mean, I love Mark Williams as Alan Scott, you were wrong, but that was class by Paul Roos.
What will Woosha do today?
That's a very good
question. Do you think he might wave to someone? Or
he might actually smile.
Kiss his wife or something?
You were wrong, Wolsey, maybe?
Lewis Roberts-Thompson is intriguing, isn't he? I mean, he had such a great grand final. Big raps on Steve Silvani for the work he did with him in the weeks and months leading up to that game. An ordinary prelim final for the player who was blasted at half-time and told to change his boots, really struggled on Pavlich. And Sauce has been up there again this week.
Yeah, it was a stroke of good fortune, Mike, that Sauce just happened to be in Sydney this week.
Yeah, I saw Ruzzi's explanation for that. Oh, Stephen was up here on business. And I thought, why don't you call in? Just bring your gear, have a chat to Louis.
All right, we were talking about crying and emotion. Let's turn our attention to some of the players that have farewelled the game this year.
Many years have passed since those summer days among the fields of barley. See the children run as the sun goes down among the fields of gold. You'll remember me when the west wind moves upon the fields of barley. You can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. When we walked in fields of gold, as we lie in fields of gold. See the children run as the sun goes down among the fields of gold. You'll remember me when the west wind moves upon the fields of barley. You can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. When we walked in fields of gold.
It's going to be a great feature today too, isn't it, when they go around the ground and we get to farewell a lot of champions of the game. Well, what about those that are playing on that we thought might retire? And in fact, we don't know with Michael Voss definitively, Caroline, or do we?
Well, his son Casey, who, what a gorgeous kid he is. We saw the Brownlow the other night say that he thinks his dad will play on. I got the feeling from what Voss said at the Brownlow that he won't. He's going to tell his teammates first. I mean,
you don't tell your teammates that you're going to play on, do you, as a group?
Mind you, the people I also talk to tell me that he changes his mind every day. I think he's probably made his mind up now. I feel he's going to retire. And if I had to make a tip, I reckon he could be sitting in this chair next year or doing something for Channel 10.
Really?
Oh, well, he's a great talent, and I think that your network's looking at picking him up.
Are they playing the money card with Voss? There seems to be a bit of pressure from within the Brisbane Footy Club to make him play on again. There's obviously money that they're going to be paying him out.
I think he's above that, Andrew. I think you don't make Michael Voss do anything. Lee Matthews has made his views known to him, that he thinks the player group will be better if Vossi plays on. But the thing I like about it, he's making the decision at the right time. I thought that the other blokes, Hurdy, Glenn Archer and Cooter, made decisions at the wrong time. You need to have a month after you finish your commitments, think about it, see how you feel, whether you're prepared to go through the next pre-season of training. They didn't do that, and I reckon at least one and maybe two of those would like a chance to reconsider their decisions.
You're retiring off Hurd or Archer?
No, I'm not retiring them off. I'm talking about where they sit. I think.
Well, you said they want to reconsider their decisions.
I said at least one, maybe two of them.
I agree with him. Okay. I agree with him.
Can I ask you a brutal...
Well, who?
Yep.
I think Glenn Archer might be rethinking what he... And I think there might be moments when James Hurd might be questioning it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what about Cooter? Would Cooter have... This is a brutal question, but would Cooter have re-signed had he known that Dennis was going to be maintained as coach, do you think?
Well, I hear conflicting stories about that.
Yeah, so does everybody, I think. So what is the truth, do you know?
I think he would have re-signed either way.
He would have?
You think,
okay.
And I think he would have too.
Okay.
Blokes don't like walking away. It's a huge change for them. I mean, their entire life has been about elite athletes playing at the top level. It's not easy to say, I'll walk away, A, on a career, and B, on the $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 that comes with it.
Why do you think Hurdy's having second thoughts? He took a long time to come to his decision.
He hasn't said, Caro, I'm having second thoughts, I can assure you. But look, he made that decision pretty much hot on the heels of a best on-ground performance. And a few people at Essendon said to me he walked back into the club on that Monday after a great game and they saw that look in his eyes and they said, you're not going anywhere. And then, you know, the rigours of the last few weeks, and there was a lot of pressure to make a decision.
That's why he made the decision. He made the decision to get us off his back. Everyone kept speculating about what he would do and when he would make his decision. The easiest way is to sort of say, I'll play on.
Was there a lot of pressure brought to bear on James Hird by Kevin Sheedy? Big year for Sheeds next year. He needs to have success. Did that play out at all?
I think Sheedy certainly told him that again, like the Voss situation, the team would be better with him. But it's
the
an
teammates
individual
were
decision.
fairly influential as well, I think.
Right.
Matthew Lloyd among them.
And there's also speculation that Sheeds was saying to Hurdy, we'll get Akermanis. We will give you a substantially better side next year to play with. That Matthew Lloyd will obviously be back in harness, and we'll get Akermanis into the group. And
Not sure they want Aker now.
No, well, it seems like they've drifted out of the...
Well, is it conceivable, though, that they can come from where they are and contest the finals next year? And that's the only thing that you'll be able to sell to Hurdy to make it worthwhile to
They could play finals if they had everyone up and running, but you put any best team out there and it looks great on paper. I mean, you put that forward line together and it looks dangerous.
Well, they might not have Jason Johnson next year. They're not moving on that one-year contract, which is hard to believe given the fact that he's a two-time best and fairest.
I wouldn't move on it either.
You wouldn't give him 2 years?
No. I mean, football clubs traditionally have been too easy with their contracts.
But this is a guy that's won 2 best and fairest in the club.
He's a hero of the club. That's fine.
He's only 29.
We're dealing in the now, not in the past.
I know, but he's 28 now, 29 next season. Shouldn't... I know we're getting off the retirees subject a bit, but...
Well, we'll get off it a little further now because we're going to talk about the betting for today and just find out why the money has been so strongly for West Coast and maybe also for a draw. Gary Davies joins us from TAB Sports Bet. Good morning, Gary.
Yeah, good morning, Hutto. You're absolutely right. The money continues to come to the West Coast. And if you're a Swans fan and want to back them, you're getting very good odds. They're $2.25 head-to-head now. West Coast were $1.75 earlier in the week. And have a look at this, into 68 and this morning into $1.65. So all the money is for West Coast this morning, Hutto.
All right, Gary, thanks for that. We will take a break right now from the MCG as the countdown to the big game continues not too far away before the Swans and the West Coast Eagles do battle. Stay with us.
Hi, Gary Davies here from TAB Sports Bet. Well, this is it. Sydney meet West Coast in a replay of last year's epic. Can Sydney win back-to-back flags, or will that premiership go to the West? TAB Sports Bet have got West Coast just favourites in a very, very close market. And in the Norm Smith medal for best on the ground, last year's winner, Chris Judd, is the favourite. And don't forget, there are plenty of other exciting ways to be part of the game. So visit your local TAB or open an account online now. Best of luck.
Back in the team, and this is Murphy, young superstar, and he kicks a brilliant goal. That is sensational.
And then he went dangerous. Thomas with a big climb on Anzac Day. Dean Polo going for number 3. Can you believe it?
And it knocked away by Cloak. Swan a half chance. Birchall grabs the loose ball, kicks. It's a goal. That's the start they need.
Finds Moody. He's a runner. Right to 50, unloads, right to the line. He's a talent.
A run and chase, Swallow, hard, Swallow gets the kick away and rolls it home.
Handball off, here comes Reigns, the son of the superstar. Look at this go. Oh, that is sensational.
Inside 50, Pearce can stab it from there, and there's another highlight. Ball spills out, Rosa snaps on goal. Is this the first goal in the derby? I think it is!
Welcome back to Grand Final Day at the G, and I reckon the game's in pretty good hands for the future of young, talented coming through. Who excites you the most out of all them, Caroline?
Well, look, can I say one we haven't seen, but who almost won the Rising Star the year before in Ryan Griffin. He is going to be a super footballer. He's already a super footballer. Dean Polo, I think, surprised everyone at Richmond with how quickly he came on. And I was glad to see that Mark Murphy won the AFL Players Association Young Player Award last night. He's terrific too. Sorry we couldn't see more of him.
The other one that I've got one with a bit of a lateral difference, Hutto. Justin Sherman has been in the system for 3 years. He's played 41 games. He doesn't turn 20 until next January. He's a super player. He's got a hunger for goals and the contest, plenty of bubble about him, and I think he's a really good player.
At Brisbane, I mean, they've unearthed some good talent. Have they got a star? Is he a star, do you think, coming through for the next generation of
They've got
Lions?
a star called, where's number 16, called Jonathan Brown,
I'm talking about
who's 25 years of age.
Is Riscatelli as good as some would have us believe?
I don't think Riscatelli's as good as the $300,000 price tag that certain Melbourne clubs were prepared to come home from Queensland.
They had one of the great stories of the year, not only from a young player perspective, but just one of the great stories of the year, Colin Begley. He was taken in the international draft at the end of last year, around about December last year, came onto the club straight out of Ireland, had never played the game before. He was pushing for selection mid-season, did his quad, so that set him back a bit. Played the last 2 games, hadn't even been in the country for a year, and this kid had played the last 2 games of the year. That's a phenomenal story.
It is, and the same story. I'm asking you about a bloke at your footy club, helping. Now, I'm really pleased that Dennis has invested some time finally in this kid and given him a chance. Let him make mistakes and see how he goes. He's 6'7", he's a superb athlete. Do you think he's actually going to end up making it?
Very excited. Yeah, just as a Carlton supporter, you're looking for anything at the moment. And his development in the second half of the year, his performance in the last game when they were obliterated by Sydney, and we know how good they are, he was our best player that day. Well, sorry, he was Carlton's best player that day. He made massive, massive leaps.
There's someone else we should mention, Daniel Pearce, who did win the Rising Star. He got 13 Brownlow votes. I don't think anyone since Nathan Buckley has done as well in the Brownlow and the Rising Star in the same year.
Should the Rising Star be eligible to blokes who have been in the system for 2 and 3 years, or should it be the first-year player award?
It's an interesting one. It's, I mean, it would be difficult to deny a bloke who'd played 1 game. Say Colin Begley, your boy. He's played a game, and then he was ineligible the next year because of that. I mean, I take your point. Nick Holland won it in the year that I thought Scott Camperelli should have won it. Nick Holland had 4 pre-seasons in an AFL club.
Massive advantage, isn't it? Yep.
Well, you said you're a Carlton supporter. I'm a Geelong supporter. We might talk about them before the show ends, but I think both supporters of both teams laugh after the season they've had, so let's try and give you one.
It's a funny game, footy. One moment you're a premiership hero, the next they're giving you nothing. It can leave you absolutely knackered.
Oh, no.
But take it from an old stager. If you cop one, ooh, give it a rub and get on with it, because it won't happen again. Will it?
I think he just caught one a little bit low.
Yep, not the first time.
But at least your teammates are always there to give you a kiss and make things better with some warm and loving words of encouragement. I love you, Willow. Oh, Sammy, stop it. But I really do, Willow. I think you're just adorable. The Cats were also spreading the love in 06, but the D's had lost that love and feeling.
And another Demons down. That's terrible.
They were getting downright nasty with each other.
Brody has got one.
Not all the Hawks were happy. Bateman claiming he had no chance to be Franklin's buddy, whilst these 2 Saints turned to sinners. Egged on by their coach, the Eagles played chicken. Daniel Kerr cracking under the pressure, but he definitely wasn't the only player in 06 to end up with egg on their face. When Saints fans told Bucks, our side's twice as good as yours, Nathan's errant pass gave them some more ammunition. Buckley's chance of that happening again, the great man obviously thought.
And he shows the crowd the ball.
Oh, he just hung it out there for a minute.
Look at the crowd going out there.
Take your time, Matty, take your time.
Oh, he's kicked it straight into Pavlich. Pavlich, can he get a boot on it? Yes, he can.
This is how you do it, just stay calm.
Look at Graham kick into his own man. Bruce recovers the ball.
Don't worry, fellas, at least you were under pressure.
It'll sit for him and he's got a heap of space. Oh, that's inexplicable.
Some days you just can't get a kick, whilst others they just let you run and run and run and kick.
There's a free kick for a Shepherd off the ball now. It's going back to the Bulldogs as Voss was free, hasn't heard.
And then they take it off you anyway. It's enough to make you want to take your ball and go home, or be like Super Richo and do it all by yourself.
The man's got to know his limitations.
It was so much easier when you were a kid. All you had to worry about was how you were going to get a kick without falling over your big brother's, older cousin's, dad's jumper. Those were the days. Proper footy. No flooding to worry about. No directions. No stress. The poor old umpies, they were stressed. They copped it all year.
Lovely back towards Lovett, and down goes the boundary umpire.
The men in white eventually had enough of being gagged. They were absolutely spewing.
One of the umpires is struggling to.
Sick of being down and out, Darren Goldspink decided it was time to stand up for his brethren and push back. The old Dazzler unleashed a few choice sprays.
No, it's no mate, it's fair income. You're a doctor now, eh? Dr. Jolly.
The Golden One was sick and tired of pesky players trying to con him.
The Logies in a few weeks, mate, that's an out.
A Logies for that? You're kidding. What about this from Simon Wiggins? Also nominated in the trying to stooge a free kick category, Crackers Keating.
It's only a glancing blow, but...
And man about town, Brodie Holland. Runner-up in the Fan with a Death Wish award went to this West Coast Wally who baited Alan Didak.
Oh, come on, he says.
He's tough now, isn't he?
But the winner, this absolute lunatic who teased Captain Frightening himself, Nathan Carroll. Madness.
Not the kind of man you want to tease, really.
Player with a death wish, Kane Corns taking on bad Barry Hall. Silly, silly boy Cornsy.
Well, you're taking your life into your own hands there.
It was the type of season where defenders kicked own goals.
Oh, you've seen it all now.
Where forwards kicked no goals. And the midfielders, well, some of them didn't even know which direction their goals were in.
Their eyes in the wrong direction.
It's a game that can bring you to your knees, where even the big names get ignored.
As he walks in.
Quick play.
For those wanting to make a name for themselves, remember, you must always expect the unexpected.
Oh, it's been...
that was good. That worked.
A lot to have a chuckle about, isn't there, during the year, which is good because it gets all too serious sometimes. It's been pretty serious down at Catland, hasn't it, for second half of the year?
8-week review, pretty much a review of the coach who... What did it unearth? That the coach has taken on too many other responsibilities. He's lost the art or forgotten how to do the one-on-one coaching and teaching, that all the players told the CEO at Geelong, Brian Cook, that that's what he's really good at. He's going to have a lot more help next year, though, Hutto. He's going to have a new person in recruiting, a new person overseeing fitness. He's going to have a new
person in recruiting. Was Stephen Wells not there?
He'll be there, but there'll be another one come in. And my understanding is coming over Stephen Wells. A new assistant coach could be Steve Silvani.
Could be.
He did such a good job last week with Lewis Roberts-Thompson.
Yeah.
And he's going to have a new football operations manager overseeing the whole footy
That's
department.
significant, that, because Bomber will have to report to that person, whoever it is. And
Will Bomber be there at the end of next year, Mike?
Well, just before I answer that, Carolyn, they've said openly that they want to model it on the Sydney situation, the Andrew Island role, which is a very powerful role, even though he doesn't appear to assert his authority. But
is there someone that you've got in mind? Is there somebody out there in the system that fits the bill?
Well, the name that I'd heard, it won't happen because it's Don Pike, and he's ruled himself out of the St Kilda coaching job for the same reason that he wouldn't be interested in Geelong, because he's got a young family. But I think they're interested now more in people who have been part of a successful culture, well-educated. Don Pike sat on the board at the West Coast Eagles, so it's an all-encompassing background.
Is there You've already given the job to Robert Shaw, haven't you?
Well, Robert Shaw's become something of a Mr. Fix-It troubleshooter, and he and Mark Harvey have done a great job with Fremantle, and I wonder whether Geelong would be ill-advised to make a call to Robert Shaw and see if he's up for the job to get him home. And I know his family's still back in Victoria.
He's only been there 1 year, isn't he?
I know, but his family's still back in Melbourne. That's got to be a difficult situation. You want to be with the family.
And in fact, Don Pike has quit coaching altogether. He's gone back to Perth.
Yeah.
You didn't answer my question. Will Bomber be there next year, at the end of next year?
They would have to finish top 4 for him to be there.
Speaking of finishing, we're not far away from doing that, so we need to get your tips for today and maybe a Norm Smith medalist, if you wouldn't mind, Caroline.
Well, you obviously copied my tip in the paper today, West Coast by 20.
I read your
We all do that.
very closely, Caroline, particularly for you.
I hate to be boring, and I hate to be non-romantic, but Chris Judd has had the final series, one of the best final series I've ever seen. I expect him to follow that up today with his second successive Norm Smith.
Well, he's never boring, Chris Judd, so if he wins it, we are in for a treat.
Well, I mean, it's an easy tip.
It is an easy tip.
I do like Ryan O'Keefe, your boy, though.
He's my man.
He's yours.
He's my man. I think you win the... You can't tip a winner in this game, and as ludicrous as it is to tip the draw, I know Stephen Quartermain did it last night on the news, and there's been a flood of money for it at TAB Sportsbet.
You're not seriously tipping the draw.
Well, why not? It's been 29 years since the last one. It was 29 years before that, since the previous one. The last 3 margins have been 4, 2 and 1, so they've been halved progressively.
I haven't heard that stat before this week.
I'm on the draw.
Mike, who are you tipping?
In the norms, I'm tipping West Coast to win the grand final, Anthony, and I need to refrain, which is rare for me, but I've got to refrain from.
You've got a conflict of interest.
Well, I'm on the selection panel.
That's never stopped you in the past, Mike.
10 years ago, you...
I told you that story and told you not to raise it at my expense.
You tipped Glenn Archer to win the Norm Smith medal, and you were one of the voters, and Glenn Archer won the Norm Smith medal.
Correct. And I didn't back him.
Good luck with that, Mike. Make sure you get it right, the Norm Smith, or there will be a lot of controversy. Thanks for joining us, all of you, and hope you have a great day. Caroline, looking forward to your article tomorrow in the paper. Mike, you as well.
Good luck today, Hutto, with the call too.
Good luck.
Hello.
Thank you, everyone. Look at that sight over the MCG. Enough to get anyone excited. We will take a break. Plenty more to come. Luke Darcy, Dave.
AFL is back on 10 in 2006. Harvey Norman brings the stadium to your home. Get front row seats for today's big game on 10 with this incredible widescreen experience. Get yourself into the thrilling live atmosphere of Panasonic's widescreen plasma TVs and home theatre systems. Grab a winning deal today from Harvey Norman. AFL on 10. Seriously.
The 2006 Toyota AFL Grand Final, proudly brought to you by our broadcast partners. Toyota, footy, oh what a feeling. NAB, helping you get what you want. Bundaberg Rum, applauding Rory for winning the Bundy Fine Form Award. Bunnings Warehouse, where lowest prices are just the beginning. Yellow. Red Rooster, food for the footy, it's gotta be red. And Motorola.
Hello, Moto.
As we build up to the grand final for 2006 between the Sydney Swans and the West Coast Eagles, people are already pouring into the MCG. And, well, we could not have a better day. It's 15 degrees at the moment. The clouds have cleared and we're going for an expected top of 20 degrees. A perfect day for grand final 2006. As I say, hello to Luke Darcy, to Dave Hughes, and to our first special guest this afternoon, Damien Oliver. G'day, Damien.
Thanks, Dave.
What a beautiful day, boys.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Just got that great feel. You're walking the grounds today, the sun's out, Hughesy, and you'd love to play, but it's just fantastic to be here today.
You would love to play, but I would love to play. But it's the best day of the year. You take Christmas Day, my birthday, throw them away. I love Grand Final Day.
Well, Damien, you're the West Coast. The reason you're here, of course, is you're the West Coast #1 ticket holder in Melbourne.
That's right.
You've always been a West Coast fan?
I have, yeah. I grew up following the Eagles in WA, and I moved to Melbourne, I think, about 1989 or 89 it was, yeah. So I followed them for a long time, and, you know, it's great to see them here in the grand final again.
Did you get to come here last year?
I did, yeah. It was very heartbreaking. I thought we were home there in the last quarter, and to have to be defeated in circumstances like that, it was pretty hard to take. So hopefully we can turn it around this year.
Not going to be much in it, is there?
No, not at all. Is it true, Damien, you had the chance to ride today, had a few rides on offer and some pretty good races, and you said, no, the grand final was bigger than that, I'll give it another week?
That's right. I was watching the game last week against Adelaide, and I thought, oh, if we get in, I'm definitely coming to the footy. So I didn't take any rides, but if the Eagles didn't get in, I probably would have been riding today.
What are the rides you would give up? Well, you would, obviously, Melbourne Cup Day, you'd have to do that.
Yeah.
Is there only a few days of the year that you would swap?
Well, because the grand final's such a big day, the races are actually at morning today.
Yeah.
There's not a Mornington, there's not a metropolitan meeting.
So if it was a metro meeting, you probably would do that.
Probably, you know, if it was a big race, it might be a bit different. There's some big races on in Sydney today as well, but I didn't have any opportunities for good rides there, so, you know, I'd rather be here watching my team today.
Well, how's your body going, Damien? You've had a wretched run, of course. You fractured 2 vertebrae last year, and you had that long time out of the game, and you came back and you had that terrible fall a couple of months or 6 weeks ago, and I'm not exactly sure what you've done to your hand. I'm not sure, partially broken, but just the luck you've had has been terrible. And you look back at that fall 6 weeks ago, boy, it could have been a lot worse for you.
Yeah, I'm getting a good repertoire of scars now, I can tell you, and hopefully my bad luck's over there, but I've been back riding for about a week now. I did break a bone in my hand, which I had a plate put in about 4 weeks ago. And as I said, been back riding a week, rode a winner on Wednesday and a winner last night at Moonee Valley, so it's all going well for me now.
How are the mental scars? Obviously watching that horrific race fall, and as you said, it was the metal rail post and it could have been worse. How do you go getting back on the horse, riding at 70 k's an hour? how's the confidence mentally?
Yeah, it's been fine. I was knocked out in that accident, so it was probably a bit of a bonus, if you like, that I don't have too many recollections of it. But it's been fine since I've been back, and it's always good to get an early winner and get your confidence back as well.
How does your beautiful wife Trish? Does she just get back out there, get out of the house, or
yeah, I think she's happy to have me out of the house. I was out for about 15 months with my broken back before that, and I think she's happy to have me out of the house these days.
It's the same with a footballer. If you get knocked out or whatever, and the next week you get back, and I guess it's in the back of your mind, or maybe it's not. Can you afford to think about it? And the same question to you, when you get back on the horse, Damien, can you afford to think about the potential risks, or you try and blank it out?
From my point of view, I mean, if you're thinking about the risks, you probably shouldn't be doing it. You've got to be confident in your own ability and your judgment and your confidence as well, is that you can do the proper job. Otherwise, you're not only putting yourself at risk, there's a lot of other people as well.
Is that the same as a footballer, Lou?
Yeah, I suppose my situation, missing 2 years with a knee injury, and that was probably where the question was coming from. I think once you get out there and do it again, you're fine. It's just thinking about it. And when you don't get the chance to, and you sit there for a year and you think, can my body still do what it used to do, having missed so much amount of time? But you do it at training. You write a lot of, obviously, track work. Yeah. Once you go through and do it again, I suppose the confidence comes back.
Yeah. Much like Luke, you said, you do have doubts in your body, but once you go through the process of doing all the training, and for me, getting to trials and then to races, and then you have the confidence you can still do it, then it comes back pretty quick.
Must be hard for you, Luke, though, because you did yours the second time just in such a simple way.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, doing it at training, I suppose, and that's the thing. I mean, I suppose Ollie's was the same. It's a freak accident that can happen. I suppose you have to treat mine exactly the same. And as you say, you work so hard, you do so much training, you put it aside, and what you do is what you love, and that's what it's all about.
2 Melbourne Cups, 4 Field Cups, 7-time champion Victorian Jockey of the Year. You've done it all. This is building up now towards your grand final, which is, I guess, the Spring Racing Carnival, the 4 days over at Flemington.
Yeah, it is. Once today's over, the spotlight does turn towards racing, and it's great. The crowd's really coming out to the races, and there's big races on nearly every week now. And it's only I think about 3 or 4 weeks to the Cox Plate, 3 weeks to the Caulfield Cup and the Melbourne Cup. So the big races are really upon us.
This is your most famous victory on Media Puzzle. Seems like yesterday, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like a while ago now, especially being out of the saddle for so long in the last 18 months. But it's a magnificent day, Melbourne Cup Day, and an experience of a lifetime to actually win it. And
it's such an emotional day for you. I mean, it's been well documented, but an amazing day. I remember had some very hard blokes watching the Cup with me that day at a house, and they were tearing up. It was an amazing day.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. I had no idea what sort of feeling it would bring upon people, but it's just one of those things in sport that can happen, and it was certainly a very emotional day for me as well.
There is nothing like sport to make people cry, though, is there?
Correct.
It's just
correct.
I always get teary at the end of every grand final. Whoever wins, you just feel so. There's joy for the people who've won.
And it's all that spent-up energy, isn't it, over the...
I get jealous and just get annoyed that it's not me and not out there. But I wanted to ask you, because a lot of... every footballer loves a punt on the horses. For some reason, it goes hand in hand. Do you know any of the West Coast players personally? Obviously, you love the club. Is there a couple of players that you keep in touch with, and who's your favourite Eagles player?
Yeah, big fan of Ben Cousins. Just love the way he plays the game, really hard at it. And, I'd like a horse that tries as hard as him. He just never gives up. Obviously, Chris Judd's a star as well, and I think Ben Cousins and Michael Gardner have had some shares in horses, and a few of the other guys as well. So they like their racing as well. So it's good to see them doing well.
I hear on the grapevine that Dean Cox loves a bit of a punt too. Do you ever get anyone ringing up on the phone annoying you?
No, not too bad, the boys. No, I'm down there annoying them more before the game, I think.
Well. Yesterday, the 2 captains faced off with a couple of members of our Channel 10 crew, and speaking of Chris Judd, he yesterday caught up with our very own Tim Lane. He's the first of our interviews with the 2 captains for today's big game.
Chris, this time last year I was talking to Ben Cousins. Are you happy that you're the man in the chair?
Oh, I don't know if happy's the right word. Certainly I was very happy playing under Ben, but the circumstances arose, and the job got offered to me, and I'm very honoured to be, leading a club like the West Coast Eagles into a grand final.
Were you reluctant about it?
No. I guess initially I had to find out that Ben had definitely decided to step down from the job, and once that was the case, the club and the board took a fair while deciding on who they wanted to take the job, and when the job got offered to me, I had no hesitation in taking that role.
Do you feel you carry a greater burden of responsibility than just about anybody else in the team, being the captain and such an important player?
I don't really look at it like that. I think, I think everybody that runs out there on Saturday carries with them a great deal of responsibility, whether they're the first player picked or the 22nd player picked. And, we all need to play to the best of our ability to win a premiership.
You're glad it's the Swans and you get the chance to take on the team that beat you last year?
I don't care. I'm very glad that we've worked hard enough to get another opportunity at playing in a grand final. And, whoever our opposition is, I guess they're going to be a class act because it's very difficult to make a grand final. So, just wrapped to be here.
That's a very clinical response. Emotional factors like wanting to knock those bastards off don't come into it?
No, I don't think you'll find many people with less emotive than myself. So, it honestly doesn't come into it at all.
And that's just the way you are?
Yeah, just my makeup.
What have you got to do to break the Swans in midfield? They are so good at containing even the best opponents.
They're a quality group, and I don't think it's ever any one thing that needs to happen to break the game open or to beat a group of players. I think we need to, as I said before, play the roles which we're given, and stick to our game plan. And if I think we do that and work as hard as we possibly can, then I think that'll be good enough to win.
So is this about effort and raising it, or is it more about applying your skills as effectively as you're able?
I think it's both. I think there's no use putting in as much effort as you can if you're not sticking to the role which you've been given. So I think it's important that we're sticking to the plan, and obviously that while we're doing that, we're putting in as much effort as possible.
I sense a very strong belief from the West Coast players this year that they can do it. Am I reading it right?
There is, but we'd be wrong to say that there wasn't that sort of belief around last year as well. So we've got a lot of confidence in the way we play, and as you've seen in some of our games this year, we never feel like we're out of a contest. So those sort of results can breed confidence, and I think that'll hold us in good stead for Saturday.
And how old were you when you first imagined these sorts of moments and being captain and maybe even holding up the cup?
I can remember Melbourne's grand final in '88, which was a pretty dismal time for a Melbourne supporter because they got pumped. And I guess since then I've got vague memories of watching the grand final on TV. So I never got to go to one until a few years ago when I was already playing AFL. But it's certainly a great time, for Melbourne, and a great time to be part of such a big game.
Good luck. Enjoy it.
Thanks, Tim. Cheers.
The superstar we know is Chris Judd, the captain of the West Coast Eagles, talking to Tim Lane. You're a good judge of character, Damien. How did you see Chris in that interview? Looked pretty much straight ahead focused.
Very focused, yeah. He wasn't giving too much away at all, was he?
Are they too tense, though, the Eagles? That's what I heard, that yesterday at the grand final parade, they were not enjoying the moment at all, and they're so worked up about it, where the Swans are just relaxed. And what's the better way, do you think, to be?
Oh, I think they've had the experience of last year, and there's a pretty steely resolve amongst the West Coast players. And you just look at the way Judd handles himself and the way they're midfield. I think it's the other way, Hughes. I think they've got this resolve to get the job done, and might be enough to get them over the line.
Before we let you go, Damien, just between us, who should we back? Who should we look at over the Spring Carnival?
The Spring Carnival? Just picked up a good ride on Lad of the Manor, so he's one you'd want to follow, I think, and he's hopefully he can take me to win some good races.
Well, it's great to have you back in the saddle. We wish you all the best, and stay injury-free.
Yeah,
it's the main thing, and we'll look forward to watching you ride some winners over the next 6 weeks or so.
Thanks,
Damien Oliver, good luck to you, the West Coast Eagles today.
Thanks.
Damien Oliver. We're going to take a break. As we go to the break, there's about half a dozen players that have been heavily backed for the Norm Smith medal this afternoon. One of them, without doubt, with a big chance, is the West Coast Eagles ruckman, Dean Cox.
Well, I'll still be nervous. I think, every player will be, but, I'll probably be a bit more controlled. Last year everything was new, and, this year we'll just get out, listen to the national anthem. When that ball's bounced, we'll be ready. To be able to, kick a goal in a big game is a fantastic effort and something I'll always remember. But and then the second shot probably me on my haunches at the end of the game, not feeling the best, and that's a feeling that I don't want to feel again this Saturday.
The The winner of the Toyota Goal of the Week from the preliminary finals was Adelaide's Matthew Bode.
There, Bode, he's still lurking, he's still going. He is still going, Matthew Bode. Oh, that is an inspirational act.
And the winner of the Toyota Mark of the Week went to this hanger from Brett Burton of the Crows.
High towards the top of the goal square. Burton, a spectacular leap, and he takes the mark. It's great to see him back, the Birdman.
Welcome back to Network 10's live and exclusive coverage of 2006 Grand Final Day. It is the Sydney Swans up against the West Coast Eagles. We'll be announcing the winners of the goal and the mark of the year very shortly. Time now, though, to introduce our next special guest. With me today is Luke Darcy, Dave Hughes, and a young lady who exploded on the AFL scene back in 2004 with that dress when her boyfriend Chris Judd won the Brownlow medal. Rebecca Twigley. Thanks for your time, Rebecca.
Thanks for having me.
What an amazing couple of years it's been for yourself and your boyfriend. Just as I said, you exploded on the scene a couple of years ago. Who would have thought that night with that famous dress you would have increased your profile and Chris's profile dramatically?
I know, they're still playing the red dress now. It's so 2 years ago, but yeah, every time you turn on the telly, you can see it.
Where is it now?
I have no idea. I think it got sold at that auction, and then I think there was a bit of a problem with that, and I couldn't tell you who has it.
Do you feel the pressure of each Brownlow to try to...
Here's the dress from the other night, Dave.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful dress.
It's beautiful.
A little bit more covered.
Yes.
Chris was a big fan of that one. Yeah, there's a bit of pressure to always wear a kind of stand-up dress, but I love dressing up, so I love wearing beautiful dresses, so it's not really pressure, it's kind of like, bring it on.
I know a lot of people that were fans of the first dress, Rebecca, on Brownlow night. It made a big impact. Chris, before it came out, and he said, I'm probably the least emotional person that you'll ever meet. Have you ever seen him get emotional and get flustered?
No, he takes everything in his stride. It's kind of weird. It's like he's superhuman.
So you're not even able to push his buttons?
Not really.
At all?
Yeah,
ever?
it's kind of frustrating sometimes. Yeah, he's...
The girls often like to fight with their boyfriends, don't they?
Yeah.
He won't do it.
Never fight. You know, sometimes I try just to get a bit of something, but yeah.
How was he after last year's Grand Final?
Bit flat for a few hours. Oh, that night, pretty flat. But a couple of days later, he was over it and moved on. I was more flat than he was. So.
Here's Chris's... some vision from Chris in last year's Grand Final. Of course, went on to win the Norm Smith medal for the best player on the ground. What did he talk about the medal at all? Did he just sort of dismiss it, or? Yeah,
I think after the game I said, you know, well done, you were awesome. And he just said, oh, my kicking was crap all day. And I was like, you just won best on ground. And I think he was just flat about the game.
Do you get to talk to him today, or do you keep your distance today?
I've kept my distance, yeah. I think he's got his routine happening in all the away games, so I don't want to kind of come in just because I'm in Melbourne for this game and be like, oh, you know.
How is he for the home games? Is it like, are you with him up until the...
Yeah.
Yep. So he doesn't have a problem, he doesn't want to be alone at all?
No, not at all. We just hang at home and, you know, he folds all the washing and we have a big clean up. That's just kind of what we do, just mind-numbing stuff that, you know,
There's got to be dirt. There's got to be dirt, Rebecca.
There's no dirt.
got to be something.
He's an angel.
Give us something.
He's an angel. There's no dirt.
And what about, is he fastidious with the diet and everything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Diet, doesn't have a drink at all, so really looking forward to tonight. Yeah, just so disciplined and a real kind of role model to the guys in the team, I think.
He's amazing.
He's a good leader, yeah.
He won the Most Valuable Players Association award, as voted by the players. He by about 100 votes from Adam Good. So the respect that he's held in from the playing group is just enormous. Does he go away at the end of the year and let his hair down and go berserk? We've got to find something out of it.
Yeah, but he goes overseas, so I don't really get to see it because I'm stuck here at uni. So, yeah, I think last year they went... did the Mediterranean and they had this big boat and I think they went a bit berserk on that, but I don't really get to see
Is he a good boyfriend who'll bring you every day when he's overseas?
Yeah. Sometimes twice a day.
Now we're getting somewhere. You're obviously not married, but there's a term, you know, footballers' wives.
Yeah.
What's it like being in that? It's almost like a mini industry now. You see particularly the famous soccer wives, etc.
Because you must be like the posh and Becks of Perth.
Have to be.
Yeah, I don't know. All us girls kind of hang out together and I don't think it's like it is overseas. I mean, we're all good friends and we all like to hang out and yeah, we get a little bit of attention sometimes, but it's nothing too abnormal, I don't think.
We had the Big Ten Seriously party the other night. You weren't part of that, of course, this year. You were over in Perth. How is the week socially? Grand final week, you've been through it a couple of times.
Yeah.
I guess it's pretty quiet if your boyfriend's in it.
Yeah, last year couldn't really remember what.
Were you at this one, Hughesy?
That was one of the best parties ever, seriously. It was. It was a great party.
What time did you finish up?
I finished up early because I had to do radio the next morning, but I wanted to hang out. It was very glamorous.
Luke, were you there?
No, I wasn't.
That's the only thing you haven't been to this week.
It's been a big week, Quarters. So I had to have one night at home. But this whole grand final week, the build-up's just massive. And the Players Awards was last night, which was a good night. And obviously Chris won the MVP. So huge week, and it's been fantastic.
You're sitting with all the wives and the girlfriends and the family. What sort of supporter are you? You are very quiet, or do you?
No, I'm not that quiet. I'm surprised you haven't got some footage of me. It's really bad. I find that saying "Go Chris" is a really hard thing to say at a high pitch. Chris, it hasn't got a good ring to it. So I'm a bit of a go baber, and it's quite bad. Go babe, go babe, and he's copped a lot of fines around the club for that. So
that's very sexy to know that you're passionate. I mean, that's just great.
Every time he kind of gets it, I'm like, go babe. So, but
well,
he's good.
Rebecca, it's great to talk to you, and we wish you all the best and your friends and family today for. I guess for your sake, let's hope the Eagles get over the line.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for your time.
Cool, thanks for having me.
Let's now go to Gary Davies from TAB Sportsbet to get an update on the betting. Gaz.
G'day, Quarters, and just before we go to the Norm Smith medal, your tip of a draw has had a profound effect on the betting. $41 a draw, now at $21, so it is an absolute avalanche for the draw.
Thanks, Gary. And there's a competition on today, the Toyota Orion V6 Norm Smith Medal promotion for a chance to win $20,000 plus a $5,000 donation to your favourite AFL club. And let's face it, if you're a Carlton supporter, Dave, you need it.
Yeah, it'd be handy.
SMS the full name of the player you think will be awarded today's Norm Smith and dial 199 4444 199 4444. Entries close at 4:30. And the winner announced today's grand final edition of Sports Night. Gazza, what are we looking at for the Norm Smith?
It's Chris Judd favourite, as you'd expect, at $5. Daniel Kerr's been well back, Quarters. He's into $6. And this morning, Ben Cousins, money for him, $7.50 into $7. Dean Cox well back, all the West Coast well back. Goods, the Brownlow medalist, at $8.50. Barry Hall has eased out to $9. Rhino keeps a bit of a tip at $14. And further down to Brett Kirk, Andrew Embley at $18. Jude Bolton at 21 might be a little bit of value, and Adam Hunter, he might run down the ground, kick a couple of goals. He's at $21. But the story of the Norm Smith is they're all West Coast at the top of the board.
Amazing, the hot favouritism the West Coast Eagles are at the moment. Well, there's 44 players out there this afternoon, and there's also a bunch of young kids who'll have the great honour of handing the Premiership medallion to the winners, and Mark Howard caught up with one of them.
This young bloke is 7-year-old Riley Kohler, an Auskick kid whose two favourite things in life are kicking the footy and the Geelong Football Club.
Has kicked a goal! He plays Auskick and just loves it. He can't wait to get there every Saturday morning.
Every chance he gets, even when it's half dark. Don't worry about the mozzies, Dad, just kick the footy.
Tell me what you like about Auskick, mate.
Well, I like when you see your mates and warm up and all do all that stuff.
Riley is one of 145,000 Auskick kids around the country, but he's one of only 97 lucky Auskickers to win the prize of a lifetime.
Well, I won this competition and I get to have tea with Dipper, go to AFL World, play halftime at the MCG.
Now tell me, what do you think it'll be like? What will it like to play footy on the MCG at half time?
Fabulous, because I've never been to the MCG.
What do you think it'll be like playing in front of 100,000 people?
Shy.
Riley may seem a little shy, but let him loose in his lounge room with some cardboard goalposts and a balloon for a footy, and you soon realise the young fella is not only ready to play at the G, he's all set to commentate as well.
Play fair, kicks it, and I win! I didn't kicks it and kicks the goal. Griswold kicks it and I do it. But now play fair runs and kicks the goal. He'll be up there.
Not only do Riley and Dad Ron get to dine at official dinners, join the grand final parade and watch the big game, Riley gets to present a premiership medal to one of the victorious players.
I hope I can do it to Barry Hall.
Oh, you want to do it to Barry Hall? Why is that?
Because he's big muscles.
He's a bit like you, mate.
And his tattoo.
And what do all your mates think about this, that you're going to the grand final?
They thought, can I do it? And Campbell, my friend, said, do you have any more tickets?
And what'd you say to Campbell?
Sorry, mate.
Sorry, mate.
Prismal, play on. And kicks are young.
Good to see he's a Brent Prismal fan. He's only played a couple of games for the Cats. It's good to see he's got a fan already.
Brent Prismal will be wrapped at home. I would have thought, it's a good plug.
Was that you? That was definitely me when I was his age, in the lounge room with a balloon. I smashed that many windows and wrecked so many lounge suites.
I was doing that up to the age of 25. That's when I realised the dream was over.
Luke?
Oh, that's great fun, isn't it? Great memories growing up as a kid and running around the house. And what a great competition. To get out there, present the medals, Hughesy, on grand final day, just doesn't get any better for a young kid.
It doesn't. A great honour indeed. As we go to another break here at the MCG, Grand Final Day 2006. Let's hear from another of the stars from the Sydney Swans, Michael O'Loughlin.
As a kid growing up, you know, in Adelaide, and you watched the Swans were always on TV, and you know they'll always get flogged. You know that sort of spurs me along a little bit. You know, the club have been down for so long, and you know, having some success now really satisfying.
O'Loughlin has got it. He's gold, and the Swans are back in front.
Everyone knows what's expected. Obviously, there's a few guys who haven't played in a grand final yet, so but obviously there's a lot of guys who can offer them words of advice.
Time for that blade.
Seriously, bloody, check it out.
Is that real?
Yeah, is that? Is it real?
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay.
Have a go.
I've
Have a feel. Touch it.
I've heard differently.
If I kick this, I win the game. Oh, but what if I miss it? I'm not going to miss it. I'm Malcolm Blight. Yeah! Look at me, I'm a genius. I've got my own football cards. I hope my hair looks all right. This is going to be...
That's what you're going up in. That's the crane. That's what you're going to go up on, Jezza. You'll be able to kick it 30 metres. Don't patronise the old fella. Don't patronise the little old fella and his little old hip. Jezza, did you say your dad's from the Ukraine? Yep. The Ukraine.
Cossack.
Ukraine.
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 Blighty, remember this one? Open goal square, kicks a point.
Dave, that's...
Jezzalenko!
You what?
Yeah, some of the outtakes from those now famous Toyota commercials. They're rippers, Hughesy.
They are
rippers. I
rippers.
love them.
They're great commercials.
He actually, Blighty hurt himself when he that last scene, of course, when he went over the back. He cracked the old neck a little. He's okay now.
He'll be right.
Well, speaking of marks and goals of the year and the Toyota sponsorship, they have sponsored again the goals and marks of the year for season 2006. Time to announce the winners for the season, and we're going to start having a look at the package of the goals of the year for this year.
That's in half full. Here's Rocket playing out. Oh, look out.
Davis.
Look out.
He has been breathtaking, and that just might be the coup de grace.
Into the pocket and full stretch. Favola to the top of the screen. Oh, it's gone through. It's a miracle from Fab.
The crowd went up early. They were waiting for it to go out of bounds on the full. The mark will be paid. Burton from a tight angle. How about this one? Don't tell me he's kicked that. Oh, he is so mercurial.
Ball. It's a possible angle. Oh, he's got it. Oakland with the flight. Robertson hasn't been able to have a mark on this. Davey, surely not. Surely not. He has done it again, but they just get better and better.
Bowden, his ninth possession. possession, a penetrating kick towards full forward, knocked down by Jackson. Opportunity for Bowden. Patrick knocks it forward. Brown back to Bowden, goes with the outside of the boot and kicks a freakish goal.
So he's going to blaze. Well, it is a mighty kick. That is a monster kick. Oh, what a goal that went through at post height.
Goes on, Gary is lapping a long ball. DeLuca, Clement in front, Loney. Didak been reported the smother by Betts. Kept it alive. The impossible goal! Goal of the year, Eddie!
Hart straight down to Ortons. Got a hand to it, so too Mal Michael. Steve Johnson. Which Steve Johnson will we see today? I hope we see a lot of that one.
Well, they are the finalists for the Toyota Goal of the Year for season 2006 as adjudged by the All-Australian selectors. Boys, your thoughts?
Eddie Betts, I was at that game, and that was just after Didak had poleaxed Heath Scotland, and he kicked that goal and we thought, we're going to win this game. We lost by 10 goals, but still...
Great goal,
it was a great goal.
You are a Carlton man, Hughesy, so a little bit biased. I thought Paddy Bowden's snap from the boundary. It reminded me of Dacos's goal of the year quite a few years ago. There were some brilliant goals. I reckon Paddy Bowden's might get up.
I was calling the Eddie Betts for radio that day. I missed it because I was still looking at the fight.
So was I. I missed it as well.
I actually thought, personally, I would have gone for Aaron Davey because it was an amazing kick and it was completely intentional. But this is the winner of the Goal of the Year for 2006 as adjudged by the All-Australian selectors. You got your way, Hughesy.
Brilliant. Well, the smother, I didn't even know he'd smothered it. That is amazing.
It was. So Eddie Betts is the winner of the 2006 Goal of the Year in the forward pocket. A banana goal here at the MCG. It was a great game of football. Well, in the end, the Magpies absolutely trounced.
They did, yes, in the last quarter.
Time now to have a look at the marks of the year.
Up there, and we've got a couple of breaks away. Ignored those, went to a contest. What a beauty! Oh, he's an exciting player, Brett Burton.
Ottens, will he ever come down? Oh, Brad Ottens turns back the clock and takes a hanger on the wing.
Inside 50, high kick. The Flyers go up. Big Modlow from the clouds has reached into his bag of tricks.
Joe Watson in good position, took a terrific mark. And then he went dangerously. Thomas with a big climb on Anzac Day. Now Davey, we know how dangerous he is. Winds it up, the run for Uze. Uze Lenko, you beauty.
What an absolute beauty.
As he's got it now, drives it long to the top of the goal square. Richmond have got the number. Tell you what, that's going to be muck of the round. He took it last week. Spectacular leap from Kate Pettiford. He'll drive it long. Thompson in the contest again. Spectacular stuff from Nathan Thompson.
Breaks the Pickett tackle. Davis on the right boot to the hot spot. The big pack fly. Revolts! Nick Revolts has saved the day for St Kilda. A long ball.
Unbelievable, Mark.
He came from nowhere, Daniel Kerr.
He's a star. He's a star.
Daniel Kerr, I hope we see some action like that today from the number 4 for the West Eagles. Hughesy, who's the man?
Well, I think Ottens is the one that stands out, and interesting if he does win, because we'll see whether, he might win this one, I reckon. May need a driver, though, or the car.
Oh, OK. Luke?
Hard to go past Brad Ottens. I'm with Hughesy on this one. I reckon just the height over Barry Hall and Darren Jolly, they're two 6'5" units. I reckon Brad Ottens for mine.
Well, I was lucky enough to be at the Ottens and the Kerr one, and I reckon they were the best two for the year. Here is the winner for the mark of the year for 2006. And you are right, boys. Brad Ottens. It was right in front of our commentary position. Beautifully called by Anthony Hudson. It was a classic ride, wasn't it?
It was beautiful.
Just a beauty. Look at the height he got. And to win the mark of the year, you need to actually land. You can't land on your feet. So I think that might have got him over the line. It was a great grab.
And Brad gets a car, courtesy of Toyota, Dave.
Brilliant effort, and he'll celebrate with a few soft drinks tonight, I would say.
Let's now go down to a place called the September Club, which is where all the highfalutin guests just hoe into it all day and then watch the grand final on the big screen. And amongst the highfalutin today are 2 stars of Thank God You're Here from Channel 10. It's great to see once again Tommy G, Tommy Gleisner and Shane Bourne. Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, Cordis, how you going?
Very good morning to you. Highfalutin, you say?
Highfalutin down there. Got the jazz band going, have you?
Oh, yeah. We brought them with us. Whenever Shane and I are together, they seem to follow us around.
I don't know if you can see the guy on trumpet. Nigel Smart's picked up the horn.
Now, boys, what's your footy cred?
Well, I played 2.5 seasons for Baronia Seconds, known as the Enforcer. We lost so many games, if we won the toss, we used to do a lap of honour. That's it from me.
I got nothing. My last grand final, I realised, was I think 1990 when Collingwood won, and I was so traumatised by being surrounded by jubilant people in black and white that I've never come back. So it's lovely to break the drought.
What are your experiences of grand final day as a kid growing up, guys?
Well, I was there in '64. I'm a Melbourne supporter, and that was something to behold because we got a bit confused as regards when the going to finish. And for those older footy fans, I'd remember Ray Gatlick's big run where he kicked a goal and we thought it was all over. And I remember my sister being in tears. She was 32 at the time. And anyway, 10 minutes later, Neil Froggy Crompton from the back pocket kicked a goal and Melbourne won their last grand final, I'm very sorry to say.
Now, every episode of Thank God You're Here must feel like a grand final, as you guys don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen. Do you feel is there tension in the change rooms every time you take the show?
Yeah, there is, mainly for the performers because it's a strange thing. All the performers on Thank God You're Here say they can't prepare. You see them wandering around in the green room, they can't go and learn lines, they can't even really prepare jokes because they've got no idea whether they're going to be a Roman emperor or a dentist. So it must be a really strange experience for them.
Tom, I'm a big fan of all your work, but the panel was my all-time favourite show.
Yeah.
Any chance that's going to come back on Channel 10?
Well, we do our Christmas special. There'll be a panel Christmas wrap at the end of this year, so we figure that's a series of 1 episode. It's still a series.
That's still a series. Just with Thank God You're Here, Tommy and Shane, I guess being performers, most of us have some sort of security blanket to fall back on, but with a show like that, there's just absolutely none. Do you see a different side of some of the performers that you know quite well?
Yeah, totally. Totally. I think they actually, as soon as they walk through that door, they drop their bag of tricks, their comic persona kind of disintegrates, evaporates, and you see the true kind of comic spirit come through. And I think that's part of the attraction of the show and part of the joy of it too.
Do you think, like, I know as a comedian that often it is fun to see another comedian die, so do you hope that every now and again there is a big car crash on the show?
That reminds me of you working at the Middle Park Hotel about 9 o'clock.
We actually never set the show up to be a total car crash, but you're right, there's something about seeing a great mind in panic, and that's what Thank God You're Here, I think, encapsulates. Just seeing that genuine fear in the eye, and probably the one performer we wouldn't want is someone who's just super confident and not phased. We do love to see people on the back foot a little.
I hear the show's going to be taking up overseas, and a rumour that it may well be shown in the Middle East, or a version of it done in the Middle East. Is that true?
It is indeed. In fact, we went to in the Netherlands, in Holland, on Sunday night. Did you know this show?
Yep.
The show translates as "Fortunately, you are present." It doesn't quite have the ring, but it went to air right after their version of Dancing on Ice. So TV is quality all around the world.
But the Middle East is an interesting one. I think they're changing that to Thank Allah.
Yeah, it's going to be a fiery battle there.
Now, Tommy, we know that you're a massive cricket fan. Is there any chance Warwick Todd might make an appearance in this Ashes tour coming up?
He has been approached, but Warwick is currently still out with a long-term injury. His liver's basically given out completely. But you never know. I've never totally put Warwick to bed, and he could well appear.
And your tip for today, gentlemen?
My tip is, look, I want Sydney to win, but I think West Coast are going to get up today.
Yeah, it is a tight one. I've just got the official record here. I was trying to flick through it. Lovely shot on the front cover. It's Fraser Gehrig at a St Kilda nightclub. But I haven't got any real tips. I think West Coast will be my sentimental choice.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for your time and congratulations on the show. It's fantastic family viewing on a Wednesday night. And my only tip to you today is go easy early.
We shall indeed. Thanks, guys.
Good on you, Tom. Tom Gleisner and Shane Bourne. As we take another break at the MCG, as the countdown continues to Grand Final 2006. The MCG is starting to fill up. There's the crowd outside. It is a magnificent day in Melbourne. Beautiful one day, perfect the next. A top of 20 degrees today, not a cloud in the sky, no wind, no excuses for the footballers out there today. It is a magnificent sight, and you'll see all the action live and exclusive on your Premiership Network right here on Channel 10.
Play on, hurry, kick away, up to the wing. Tarrant, can he get there? What a mark. He is indestructible though, isn't he?
Welcome back to the MCG. The Eagles fans have come over from Perth in their thousands. In fact, lots have flown over without a grand final ticket, but some have been lucky enough to get them. But there are still a lot of Eagles supporters outside trying to find themselves a grand final ticket as they prepare to take on the Sydney Swans. Time now for the second of our captain interviews, and our own Luke Darcy caught up with the Swans captain, Leapin Leo Barry.
Leo Barry, thanks for joining us, and well done on reaching your second grand final. I suppose when I think about your team, I just think about the discipline and the team orientation. How have you gone about achieving that as a group?
Definitely the way Roosie coached and the stuff he's put in place. It's basically a player-driven list, and we've developed a culture down there that you play for and with each other, and we've shown over the last couple of years that as a team we can beat anyone.
Having said that, the one hiccup that you've probably had publicly this year has been Nick Davis speaking out. How did you handle that?
Yeah, I thought we handled it pretty well. Nick's obviously an important player for our team, but no one player is bigger than the system, and I think Nick fully understands what he did was wrong, and he's acknowledged that. He's moved on. He's a better player for the six weeks he had off. He had to earn his keeps to get back in the team, and he let himself go a little bit, but understanding that, he's been playing good footy, he's back in the team, and I think he's learned his lesson.
So just amazing that your style of play comes under criticism. You win the premiership last year and it was criticised during the year, and even at stages this year it's been criticised. Do you feel vindicated now, you're a premiership player, you're about to play your second grand final, that your style of play might be just the way to go?
Yeah, well, that might be the impression. Other people, we're certainly happy with the way we've been playing, and we've been criticised even this year in certain areas, but I think the way we've played, we show you can win games of footy, and particularly for the unit and the players we've got, that most suits our game plan, and to win games, that's critical.
Speaking of the unit, you probably get Quinton Lynch tomorrow. Yep. You're going to give away 10 centimetres and 14 kilos, which you do every week. How do you get yourself up each week to play on bigger opponents? Yeah,
I almost need a heel raise in my shoes sometimes. I'm only a little bit of a runt. It's more managing your own strengths and weaknesses. I think Quinton's he's a very large man, but he actually moves really well. So he mainly gets a lot of his ball in the lead. So you've got to be quick to shut him off. He's extremely strong, so you can't get anybody one-on-one contest.
Can't let you go without asking you about Stephen Quartermain's famous words. Leo Barry, you're a star. You going to get sick of hearing that at some stage or not?
Yeah, I don't know about a star, but I just try and go and do my job, and it was certainly a major feature and the highlight of my career so far, but hopefully we can improve on that on grand final day.
Final siren goes. Sydney win back-to-back premierships. Which captain goes up to get the cup?
I don't know, we might have to jostle each other and race up there. Hopefully it's something we have to worry about. I think we all go up there and all get our hand on the cup. Hopefully it's the case on grand final day. It'll be a huge effort, and it'll be a pat on the back for all three guys.
Be a good problem to have if you do. Speaking about your coach, what makes Roosie a great coach?
I think he's just very much a people's person. That's the best way to sum Roosie up. He's the way he's able to deal with each individual at a footy club is the way, and he's definitely the way his strengths as a coach. The way he embraces everyone and gets everyone working towards the same goal is definitely an area where he embraces everyone.
Well, dying minutes to the grand final. Sydney 1 point up. Chris Judd gets the ball. It's a long ball in, 1 out. Can you do it again?
Might go the punch.
Well, Leo Barry, you are a star. Good luck with your quest to win back-to-back premierships.
Appreciate it.
Leo Barry there. How'd you find him yesterday? Nice and relaxed?
Yeah, he was nice and relaxed, and look, he's a really nice guy, and you can just tell that there's an air of confidence about the Sydney guys. They did it last year. He's got one of the big jobs today, Quarters, playing on Quinton Lynch, so if he can get that job done, I think it'll help Sydney win the game.
It's an enormous job, no doubt about that. Well, we're very excited at the moment because we're now being joined by one of the all-time greats in the history of soccer. Now, I'll just, for those of you at home that may not know too much about the game of world football, he is the Tony Lockett, we could describe him, of world soccer. He's played for Southampton, Blackburn and Newcastle, 559 Premiership League games, 283 goals, represented his country, England, 63 times. He is in the English Football Hall of Fame. He won an OBE for services to football back in 2001, and he is listed as one of FIFA's greatest living 100 footballers. This man is a star. Alan Shearer, welcome to Grand Final Day.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you wouldn't mean anything to you about Tony Lockett, but he was a greatest goal kicker of all time, and that was your forte. You said you've never been to the MCG, you've never seen a live game of Aussie rules.
No, I'm going to plead ignorant, I have to say, but it's something I'm looking forward to. They tell me there's going to be near 100,000 people here, so it's going to be an exciting day.
So you've got no idea of the rules?
I haven't, no.
Come on, Dave, you got 30 seconds.
Well, there's 18 players on each side. It's a massive field. There's 4 sticks at each end, and you've got to try to get the ball through the big sticks. All right, that's when you get 6 points. You get through the little sticks, you get a point.
Okay.
Team with the most points at the end wins.
I'll believe you.
What's your role here, Alan? You got a couple of clinics?
Yeah, I got a couple of coaching clinics with my sponsor, Umbro, whom I've been with for nearly 20 years now, going around Australia and then to New Zealand on Wednesday or Thursday, so it's a good time. My first time here in Australia, and the people have been great to me.
As I say, it looks like you've been very well received.
Yeah, they've been great, they really have. I mean, I've only been here for a day or 2 days, and they've really been great.
Alan, just have to ask you about your best team success, well, really your only team success was in 94-95, the last game of the season with Blackburn. You won the premiership, you've won every other individual honour. How high does that rate in your career?
Yeah, it's high. I think the best thing that has happened to me and probably will ever happen to me is to be named the captain of England. I mean, I dreamt of playing for my country when I was a kid, but never ever did I dream of captaining them. So that's the biggest thing that's ever happened to me.
The guys that will win the game today after you go, they'll go and drink for a week and get poleaxed. The rumour was after you won your premiership, you went home and painted the fence.
Well, that was a rumour. I can assure you that wasn't true. I did have 1 or 2 drinks as well, yeah.
How did you deal with being captain of England? Was the pressure? Are you good with? Are you obviously good with pressure? You've scored so many goals.
Yeah, I loved it. I think it is a situation where there's a lot of pressure put on you for obvious reasons, but it's something I always thrived on.
Yeah.
How did Bex handle the role?
I think he done great. Yeah, I mean he was successful. He didn't win a trophy, but he enjoyed it. I mean he's used to pressure. He has people following him wherever he goes, so it wasn't a problem with him. He done very well.
That was my next question. The industry here has really grown, the Australian rules industry, particularly media-wise, over the last 5 years or so, but the level of scrutiny, as most of us know over there, is extraordinary. Is it got to a point now where it's just out of control?
I don't think so. I think you go into it knowing that if you're going to make it into the game of football, then you're going to have pressure on you. And if you don't like that, then you won't get on and you won't make it. So you have no choice. You have to handle it. It comes with the territory, as people say. So like it or loathe it, it's there and you ain't going to get away from it.
Yeah. And you've retired now, Alan. What's life after football for you? Are you going to coach or are you going to get in the media?
I'm doing my. I work for the BBC back in England and I've done for a while now. Doing my coaching badges, but I'm just enjoying retirement and playing a lot of golf and really enjoying it and sort of chilling out a bit.
Is coaching something you're thinking about? Or?
Yeah, it is. I would like to give it a go. I think one day. When that day will be, I don't know, but I'm just happy at the moment and enjoying things.
Who do you rate as the greatest footballer in the world at the moment?
Ronaldinho. I don't think many people can argue with that. I think he's done it on the biggest stage. He does what everyone likes to see, which is produce skills week in, week out. So I'd have to go along with him.
Did you have a look at Australia at the World Cup? And well, I mean, it captured the imagination of this country, and it's really lifted the profile of soccer.
I think you've got a great opportunity to go on and push soccer, as it were. I think they had a very good World Cup. I'm a big fan of Tim Cahill at Everton. You have a lot of players now playing in the Premier League, and he seems to have the knack of being in the right place at the right time and scoring important goals.
Did you see much of the Socceroos over at the World Cup? If so, what do we need to do, do you think, to take that big next step?
Well, that's a big opportunity now. Someone asked me the question this morning, do they need to go for an experienced manager? Well, there's no guarantee an experienced manager will take you on to the next level. I think what I do know is that after having a relatively successful World Cup, now is the opportunity to try and kick on and go on to that next level.
Now, this again, you might go over the top, but of course, playing for Newcastle, they're called the Magpies. That's a very dirty word in this country.
All right, okay.
Are you aware of that? Dave can explain that one to you too.
Yeah, it's a team called Collingwood, and they're hated basically by everyone who doesn't barrack for them, but a lot of people do barrack for them. So.
Well, we're used to that. Anyone outside of Newcastle doesn't like Newcastle anyway. So.
It's such a massive stage for us today. There's a lot of young players going through it. You've been on the big stage so many times. If a young man came up to you and said, I'm playing today, Alan, what's your bit of advice? How do I cope on the big stage?
Just enjoy it. I mean, how many people would like to be on it?
Is it hard to enjoy?
Yeah.
It is if you don't win. I think that's the only way you would enjoy it. But it's, I mean, how many people would like to be out there? I know there's going to be nearly 100,000 people here today. How many of them would like to be out on that pitch? So just go on and enjoy
Were you
it.
able to stay in the moment? Say you just missed an easy opportunity at goal. You're obviously able to just get that out of your mind?
Well, I've been in that situation as well and missed one or two, but I think the most important thing is to get into there and be in the right place at the right time again, so you can get on with it and try and rectify the situation.
Most kids growing up, obviously soccer was what you were great at and one of the great players of all time. Was there another sport? Was there a choice for you? Could you have been a...
No, there was no choice for me. It was either football, I don't know what, or soccer, or I don't know what I was going to do. My other passion and my other love now is golf. I'm a big golf fan and I'm working hard at trying to get my handicap down with retiring.
How about cricket? Are you looking forward to the Ashes coming up?
Yeah, we had a few conversations since I've been here, and I know the game is here on Boxing Day, and again there'll be a huge crowd for that, and it's something for us all to look forward to. And
you've got having a brief look here with the clinics. The young soccer talent here, obviously there's a lot of scouts coming out now. It's untapped out over here.
Yeah, there is a lot of kids, and judging by their response, they love the game, and they've given me a great reception in the 2 days that I've been here. So it is encouraging, yeah. And as I said, there is a great opportunity for soccer now to be, I think, in this country to be pushed on to the next level.
Well, it's going to be a fantastic day here, Alan. It's, as I said, 100,000 people. The weather is perfect outside. You'll get a good hard look at the MCG. We hope you enjoyed the game, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Alan Shearer, soccer star from England. Another break from the MCG, and as we go to the break, let's have a listen to another star. This man's from the West Coast Eagles. His name is Andrew Embley.
Give yourself an opportunity to play in a grand final and to win premierships. And you know, my whole life I've thought about playing in a grand final. Now I want to win a grand final, so that's where I'm at. And you know, I'm very excited. I'm excited for the football club and for all our fans that we get another chance. And this time things are going to be different.
Andrew Embley certainly back in form over the last month, and he is one of the wild cards, no doubt about that, today in the grand final of 2006. It is a beautiful day in Melbourne, an expected top of 20 degrees. Let's now go to Mark Howard as amongst the throng and just checking out all the colour and movement here at the MCG.
Thanks, Quarters. There is no better place to be than the MCG on Grand Final Day. The sun is shining. People are streaming in from everywhere to see the Grand Final replay, the same as last year, the Swans versus the West Coast Eagles. And last year we had the pleasure of speaking to Nell and her Swanettes, one of the most beautiful women in Melbourne. Nell, last year you saw your first Swans flag. What a day that was.
It was absolutely wonderful, yes, yes. Still lives in our memory. Still have tears when we watch the replay, yep.
Now, this time a year ago, Nell, I've got to say you were talking it up. You were telling me if the Swans won the flag, you would go and get a tattoo. Did you do it?
I certainly did. And it's on
Where is it, Nell?
On the wrist.
Can you show us where it is? Are we allowed to have a look at that? Swans 05. There's plenty of room for another couple on there, Nell.
06, 07, 08, 09 and 10 will fit around the wrist. Yes.
Was it just a great day last year?
It was absolutely wonderful, yes.
Now, I also remember last year you were telling me you were pretty keen on catching up with Jude Bolton after the game. How'd you go there?
Oh, very good, yes, yes. We caught up with him down at the ground when we had our family day, and he said, yes, he would come in and shut the door.
Now, what about... Oh, shut the door, Nell. Can you tell us anything else?
No.
Who's in charge of this operation, gentlemen? What's going on here, mate?
I'm just having a beer. How about one?
Oh, I'd love one. You just got the keg fired up the ground. Oh! How many have you had so far?
Always have one at 11.
Oh, you've got it on my fancy Channel 10 suit. Cheers, mate. This is a bit of a tradition on Grand Final day.
Yeah, every year, yeah. Going for the Swans by about 11 points.
You think the Swannies will get up?
Yeah, by about
What about this bloke over here? Looks like he's had a couple of quiet ones, mate. Just got a bit of froth in the mo. There you go.
I have seconds, buddy. Seconds. I share it.
What time did you have your first one?
Oh, yesterday.
How much are tickets going for at the moment?
Oh, well, I've heard they're going to $1,000 to $2,000, but we wouldn't pay anything like that. But
what would you be prepared to pay to see your Swannies win the flag?
well, that's priceless. That's priceless. We're going to win anyway.
Well, you might need to dip into the old credit card and pay the 1,000, Pete.
Well, no, I've won a bit of money. I backed Adam Goods at 100 to 1. For $100, so I got $8,000 there, but that's back in Griffith.
You got $8,000, and you won't pull out of your wallet $1,000 to go and watch your team play.
And I also got the Quinella, and the Swans win today. I'll get a lot more. There goes me mobile. I'll have to go, I think.
That might be a ticket sale, Pete.
Might be a ticket. Thanks, fellas.
Good on you, mate.
Thank you.
Mark Howard out and about. They're hoeing into it early, boys.
Oh, they're loving it.
It's a good day, isn't it?
It's a big day.
Well, the Gillette M3 Power Nitro Grand Final Sprint this year is taking on a new flavour because we're in the handicap system, which I reckon is a fantastic idea. We might get some big names over the line into the final. Time now for the heats, and calling all the action, as always, is the man who we call Mr Versatile in the Australian media industry, whether it be athletics, football, Melbourne Cups, Commonwealth Games or Olympic Games, or greyhounds. It's the one and only. Take it away, Peter Donegan.
Thank you, Stephen. Yes, if only Laurie Lawrence had have slept you harder all those years ago. Let's go into the heats of the Gillette M3 Power Nitro AFL Grand Final Sprint at Punt Road. And there is the field for the first of the heats. Some of the men to watch: the 19-year-old from Adelaide, Richard Douglas, the youngest man in the field; the 27-year-old Tim Notting from Brisbane, who had a fair old warm-up on before the game last night; and the Coleman medalist Brendan Favola. And you can see the handicaps: 2 metres for Winderlick and Burns, out to 8 metres for Favola and Brent Guerra. So they're down in the starting position. And Heath Shaw got off to a good start. Brendan Favola, the Coleman medalist, going well early. Brent Guerra with his hair waving in the breeze on the left of the picture, but Favola going really well from 8 metres, and he's going to do it. Probably Winderlick second, Peake and Notting fighting it out for the places in the final. But what a win by Brendan Favola off 8 metres, and he's going to give them something to chase in the final later on. Winderlick, Peake and Notting getting through to the final later on today. So then we go to the second of the heats, and it features the NAB Rising Star winner off scratch, Daniel Pearce, the 20-year-old from Port Adelaide. Nathan Foley representing Richmond coming off 2 metres. The outmarkers here: Shannon Hearn, Brent Harvey and Russell Robertson from 6 metres. Brent Harvey, the veteran of the field at 28 years of age. So they're ready for heat 2. Daniel Pearce on the right of your picture. And he got off to a pretty good start. Foley also got a very good start from 2 metres. Over on the left, Robertson going well, and Simon Phillips coming through for the Swans. But it looks like Nathan Foley might have taken over for Richmond. He's just run out of the frame there, but I think it might have been Foley from Daniel Pearce. Russell Robertson was right there in contention. There's the official result. So it is Nathan Foley from Richmond off 2 metres. Daniel Pearce, great effort off scratch. Russell Robertson and Simon Phillips go through to the final later on this afternoon. So let's have a look at the composition of the field for the Gillette M3 Power Nitro AFL Grand Final Sprint. Pearce, Foley, Winderlick, Peake, Phillips, Notting, Robertson and Favola. Brendan Favola, the outmarker on 8 metres. Daniel Pearce off scratch. It should be a beauty. Who will be the fastest man in football? Quarters we'll find out at half-time in the big game later on.
Got on you, Pete. Peter Donegan there calling the action for the Grand Final Sprint. I am absolutely shocked that Brendan Favola and Tim Notting got through to the final.
That is turning
disturbing.
all sort of thinking on its head there, because Tim Notting last night, he was in fine form in another way.
And Fev, he gave up the drink during the year, but do you reckon he hasn't made up for it since the season?
You're saying Fev rang you at very early hours the other day?
On Nova, he rang the radio station about 6:30 one morning last, well, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, yeah. Him and Spider Everett were playing cards, and it was funny, Spider in the background yelling out, "I got no friends, I got no friends."
Interesting, Spider put his hand up to go back to St Kilda last night on before the game.
Well, with Thomas gone, it seems like a fair fit, actually.
Well, they need a ruckman, don't they? And Spider, he can still seriously play the game. And I think the advantage that they get him back, they can actually put him on the list as a veteran, which means only half his wage goes into the salary cap. So that'd be a huge story, wouldn't it, back to St Kilda?
Who do you think Spider's going to be the best fit for? Because all of a sudden, I mean, Adelaide need a ruckman. As I said, St Kilda need a ruckman, among others. Where do you think Spider's best fit is?
Well, I mean, I think the Crows are going to be the closest to winning one, and if his ambition is to win one, which every player's is, could he slot into the Crows' side? Obviously, they've lost Biglands next year, and Ben Hudson's coming back from his knee. Maybe the Crows.
He said last night, he said the only team he doesn't want to go to is North Melbourne because they start training next week.
Yes. What was his demeanour like last night? I mean,
he was in a good mood, absolutely. So, I mean, the Hawthorn thing is weird for me, that he seems like such a lovely guy, and how they can be so alienated with, not going and hanging out with him anymore.
Have a look at that for a sight, boys. You'd be salivating, Luke. You're ready to go again next pre-season, hopefully here this time next year?
Yeah, that would be the fairy tale for me, Quarters. It's been enjoyable sitting up here and enjoyable working alongside your good self this year, but it's all about getting out there on the field, and the ambition's as strong as ever, Quarters.
When does your pre-season start, Luke?
Started about 8 months ago, Quarters, and I'll have about 5 days off and keep going. It's a good chance for me to try and get ahead of the field now while everyone else is having a break.
Well, they're pouring into the MCG. It's hotting up too. We've got an expected top today of 20 degrees. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually exceeds that. It is a cracking day as they continue to pour through the gates. About 2 hours and 20-odd minutes now before the bounce for the 2006 Grand Final between the West Coast Eagles and the Sydney Swans, live and exclusive on your Premiership.
In our special Grand Final edition of 10 News, the last Saturday in September is finally here as thousands begin the pilgrimage to the MCG, where the Sydney Swans take on the West Coast Eagles. In other news, police out in force as one of the worst months on our roads comes to an end. And Melbourne Storm set to fly north for the NRL Grand Final. All the details at 6.
Now, you're more famous than Joffa from Collingwood at the moment. How are you dealing with the fame?
It's all right, not too bad. It sort of gets a bit onto you and some of the things some of the people say, but no, you take it on your stride, mate, and laugh about it.
And what about meeting Michael O'Loughlin again?
September 30, 2006, we'll be there.
And there he is. He's lived up to his word, Daniel Williams from the West Coast Eagles cheer squad, but Michael O'Loughlin will also be here. So it'll be interesting to see if those two come head-to-head today in the Grand Final of 2006. What's it like with the cheer squad behind the goals, Luke?
When you're playing the goal square, you cop more than you could possibly imagine. So you reckon the big fella's not going to be wound up today to give it to Michael O'Loughlin. But that was one of the great images for the year.
It was.
It was a crunch goal, ran over face to face. I reckon that's all in good fun. And he's a superstar, the big fella now.
You know what? That's where the real fans are, though, on the boundary line. Because often when you're up in the stands, you want to be able to talk to the players directly, but you can't, or the umpires. It's probably a good idea actually. You're up in the stands sometimes.
What's the funniest thing someone said to you?
I think just basically leaning over the fence and just copying abuse after abuse after abuse is just, what do you respond on? One of the funniest things I reckon I saw this year was Nathan Buckley copying it right in the boundary line. Ball went out of bounds and he actually pretended to handball to the bloke in the crowd. You've got to be pretty good to do that, but every now and then something humorous will catch your attention.
Time now to check once again the latest on the betting. We go to TAB Sports Bets, Gary Davies.
Yes, hi there, Quarters. And I'll tell you what, we finally found some money for the Swans, Steve. $2.25 they were, now into $2.20, and finally they've worked out that they're good odds. The first goal kicker, Hall's favourite, as you can see, $7.50 for Hall. Lynch, he's had a great season, he's at $8. O'Loughlin, the goal sneak at $9. O'Keefe, he'd be a good chance at $12. Then you've got Cousins and Judd at 14. Ashley Hansen, a chance at 15. Nick Davis, can he sneak one through first at 16? And of course the Brownlow medalist, Adam Goods. But we finally found some money for the Swans.
Thank you to Gary Davies as we have a look at our Toyota Orion V6 Norm Smith medal competition today for a chance to win $20,000 plus a $5,000 donation to your favourite club. SMS the full name of the player who you think will be awarded today's Norm Smith on 199 4444. That's 199 4444. And the winner will be announced in today's edition of Sports Tonight. Let's now go down to the West Coast Eagles rooms as we catch up with our boundary rider, Tim Gossage. G'day, Tim.
G'day, Stephen. Yes, nothing too fancy about the West Coast Eagles. I can tell you their players arrive in about 10 or 15 minutes, but I've been inside the rooms now. There is no fanfare whatsoever. There is officially 4 streamers, no balloons, just the odd sign, a motivational sign, very much how the West Coast Eagles have done it throughout this finals campaign. I can tell you that the vibe, though, amongst the staff that arrive is one of the West Coast Eagles said they need nothing more than motivation, and that's to win the game.
Now, Tim, any late changes? There's been all sorts of rumours floating around that Graham might come back in, and all sorts of names have been bandied about. It seems like Daniel Kerr will certainly play. The one name that kept popping up was Chad Fletcher.
His name did pop up. He's had a tough campaign. He gets a lot of the ball, but of course he has had trouble turning it over in more recent times. But no, the vibe is they'll go in as named, Stephen. The name Jamie Graham was certainly bandied around during the parade yesterday, but the vibe from the West Coast Eagles camp and from those in the know that they all go in as named. Daniel Kerr, David Wapunda and others will be playing.
And Tim, can you estimate how many sandgropers have come over here today?
Well, I reckon there's going to be about 15 to 20,000 in the crowd, but I heard you mention earlier there's about 30 to 35,000 have made the trek over just to soak up the atmosphere. Everywhere you went in Melbourne over the last few days, it's been West Coast Eagles, and I think the Eagles fans outnumbered those of the Sydney Swans during the parade. But there's still plenty left back in Perth. Certainly is, and they've come over here in their thousands, and good luck to the West Coast Eagles fans today. It is a big effort to get over here, so let's hope they are rewarded with the premiership. Down now, though, to the Sydney rooms. They'll be thinking otherwise, Neil Cordy.
Yeah, they certainly will. They're yet to arrive, the Swans, about 5 minutes away. I hear a little bit of noise coming from around the corner, but similar sort of setup in the Swans room. No balloons, no streamers, all very low-key. And it's the same rooms as last year. If you're looking for omens, so they'll feel very comfortable in those surroundings. A lot of the build-up this week, of course, has surrounded Darren Jolly and his baby. Well, they've got a little bit of form in that direction because Michael O'Loughlin actually spent the night on the hospital floor before the Richmond game in round 16 and went out and kicked 3 goals, so that's a good sign.
Do you think they could get any more relaxed, Sydney?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all the reflection of their coach, and he's about as relaxed as we've seen over the last few years, and they're so laid back. The Darren Jolly thing, Adam Goods as well, winning the Brownlow. It's all water off a duck's back.
Good on you, Neil, as we see the Sydney Swans just arriving there. So Neil Cordy and Tim Gossage down in the Swans and the Eagles rooms. Time now to go out and about again and check out what's going on with Mark. Oh, here's Sydney first. Here's the Swans coming in before we go back to Mark Howard. And there's Darren Jolly. Great to see him all okay after the birth of his daughter, which is great news. Young McVeigh's had a terrific season. Ty Kennelly, he's my tip for the Norm Smith, I reckon, today.
Yeah, and just saw Ted Richards going through. Wouldn't that be a great story? He changed clubs,
yeah.
you're going, suddenly you're in a grand final and win a premiership. That'd be a huge story.
Great story for Ted Richards. Stephen Doyle, the backup ruckman. And there he is. Is he the most important man today, Barry Hall?
Yeah, I think he is. I think if he kicks 5 or 6, the game's just about over, in my opinion.
He's had such a great final. If he has a big one today, that's going to be one of the best final series ever, I would say.
Playing on the All-Australian fullback, Darren Glass, you think will probably start on him, so that'll be just a brilliant contest
and
again.
We saw Lewis Roberts-Thompson going there. Had some last-minute coaching from Sauce, our very own Stephen Silvani. What would that have been all about, Luke?
He's not bad, Sauce. He's jumped ship from the dog.
He's not bad. He's still getting paid by the Dogs.
And then just jumped on the grand finalists, if you don't mind. So, yeah, we've kept that in mind, Sauce. But they've done a fair bit of work before in the past, I think, Lewis Roberts-Thompson and Sauce. So the full-back of the century, I'm sure he's got plenty of advice to offer.
So the Sydney Swans have officially arrived at the MCG as they prepare to defend their title. It is time now to go out and about, back out to get all the colour at the MCG today, and there's plenty of it. Mark Howard.
Quarters not long to the big game, but out here in the car park, the boys are getting pretty excited. Everyone's having a bit of a particular footy out here. Now, just tell me, mate. Now, you've taken one of the great grand final marks there, mate. You've come over from Perth, big fella.
All the way from Perth, WA.
How'd you get here,
Lake
boys?
Valley. 48 hours on possibly a box on wheels, the most uncomfortable bus of all time.
All sorts of big names at the G on a day like today, and none bigger than this fella, Rexy. Grand final day. What is it all about?
Well, it's all about tradition for me, but as you can see, it's all about fun for a lot of people who don't get the opportunity to run onto the ground. It's a sobering thought, Mark, that only 44 people can do that every year. I've just been up in the 3AW commentary position and I've copped Channel 10's Robert Walls just sitting there having a reflective moment. Apart from a very, very sad year, which we all know about, he's just saying, Rex, it's 38 years since I ran onto this ground in the first of my 4 grand finals. I sat down alongside him and said, it's 37 years since I ran onto this ground in the first of my 3 grand finals. It's something I'll treasure forever, but what I do on the radio is I entertain all these people. Isn't it marvellous in a world that is so troubled, Mark? You can see people having a great time, and that's what it's all about.
How'd you get over here, mate?
Oh, we flew. $1,200 return. And yesterday we sold 3 spare tickets for 2.5G. How do you like that?
That's a good result, mate.
Yeah, we're stoked.
How do you think?
How we're going to Melbourne and the grand final for free.
Have a look at this bloke, seriously. Look at, he's even got the strut.
How are we?
I'm good, mate.
What's going on?
Oh, you tell me, Wizard. Just wound back the clock.
I just wound back the clock, don't worry about me. I got the blonde hair, tight shorts, wide boots, bee-stung lips, and I'm ready for takeoff. My name's Rory Cameron, I'll do all the funny stuff here.
You reckon there's any chance of a late change or not?
There's a late change? Oh, well, I'm going to let you in on a 10 exclusive, don't you worry about this. Here we go, late change. Roosie just called the shots, haul out, Capper in, they're going to sit me in the goal score. I'll kick 6 in the first, don't worry about that.
6 in the first half?
6 in the, no, first quarter, mate.
The scores are locked together, Miss Nice and Tight. And Big Cox gets it to Cousins. Across to Kerr. Here comes the son of a Tobin Hansen. And the mob is there. Lynchie's kicked a goal on the west coast of 1 because I like both teams and I think it should be each of 1, each of 2. So it's fantastic.
You're a generous man with your time. Thanks,
I don't know about that. I love Channel 10, but I've retired. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rexy.
The one and only Big Rexy. Well, boys, we've got to wrap it up here in about a minute, but be remiss of me not to ask your tips. Husey, you've given it a lot of thought, I'm sure.
I really haven't. Last year was one of the best days ever. And I just hope for another close one, but I think West Coast this year will get over the line.
And your Norm Smith medal?
I think Big Cox. Dean Cox, I reckon, it will be really important today, and I think he'll do it.
Good on you, Husey. Thanks for your contribution.
Thank you.
Enjoy grand final day. And Luke, who do you like?
I'm with Husey. Just got a feeling about West Coast. Very tight game. I hope it's a tight game. And Daniel Kerr, he's just a beauty, and I reckon he might win the Norm Smith medal. He hasn't played against Sydney the last 3 times they've played. He's another quality player they've got to look after today.
And just for the record, I am officially, this is not a joke, I'm tipping a draw. So I will say, gentlemen, I will see you back here this time next week, because I honestly believe it will be a draw today and we will have a grand final replay next Saturday. You never know. Might be Saturday night. Coming up next, the definitive grand final preview with Tim Lane, Malcolm Blight, Robert Walls and Stephen Silvani, grand final day 2006.
It is our Indigenous sports equivalent to Ali Frazier 5, and the crowds are pouring into our equivalent of Madison Square Garden. It's the Melbourne Cricket Ground. The stage is set for the showdown for the crown between the West Coast Eagles from the West Coast, the Indian Ocean side of Australia, and the Sydney Swans from the Pacific coastline. Welcome back to the MCG. If you're joining us for the first time, good afternoon. It is good to have you with us. The stage is absolutely perfectly set for the big one. I am surrounded by 10's expert commentary team with 14 grand final medals as players, 7 as coaches. It's like a military parade. Robert Walls, it's a great occasion.
That is, Tim. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to the boys. Look, this is one grand final we've been looking forward to for a long time. We've got the 2 best teams playing. They play completely different styles of football, in as much as West Coast get a lot of the football. Sydney are miserly and they try to deny the opposition the ball, but they can play attacking football too, Sydney. And perfect conditions for West Coast to use their run and handball, which we've seen so much of over the last 6 weeks.
Malcolm, good afternoon. What would you like to be doing if you could summon back your youth? Be out there playing, or would you like the comfort of the commentary box?
No, I'd swap playing any time, Tim, to be out there. I just had a thought, you know, that the emotion starts to rise as it gets closer, and I always spare a thought, I don't know why, for the losers. I mean, I've got this thing inside of me that says that as much as the game's going to be great, 22 heroes and along with a coach, there's going to be 22 very disappointed players today and a coach, and that's one of the great things about going, the expectation of going to a grand final.
Stephen Silvani. Beautiful day. Wouldn't you love all that stress of being at full back again in a grand final?
They never really looked forward to going down to that full back position. Usually you had to stand a gun down there, the Gary Ablett and Wayne Carey at centre half forward. But actually ventured down to the ground, Tim, and stood in that centre square, and I thought, geez, imagine standing in there at that first bounce when 100,000 people at this stadium, and knowing that a good possibility that someone's going to come off the line and pick you off. It's quite a privilege to be standing there in the middle, I reckon.
No one would do that in a grand final, come and pick you off the line, Stephen.
No coach would ever suggest it, would he?
No.
The Eagles are just arriving at the MCG. They've come here off a tough finals campaign. There's the man probably carrying the ultimate weight of responsibility, isn't he? He has a lot to lose today.
I think he does. West Coast Eagles have won more games than anybody over the last couple of years, Tim. They are a really talented team, and if after 2 years they don't have a premiership to their name, it would be disappointing because they've promised a lot. This is a game that, you know, they've set themselves for. They got beaten by that point, of course, by Sydney at home. In a way, I think, Malcolm, it's been an advantage for the West Coast Eagles because it meant they had to play 2 more finals and bring players such as Hansen and Kerr, Seaby and Embley into the mix, and those 2 finals will serve them well going into this game.
Yeah, and the other thing with that, Robert, their form has been very good along with it. So I just, I'm not so sure about the Eagles. I think they've got 2 or 3 or even 4 more years. They're not an old list by any means. I think they're still going through a development phase. If John Worsfold asked himself 3 years ago, we'd be playing in 2 grand finals in a row, I think even us all would have said, gee, I don't know about that. I think he's done a remarkable job with them already.
A couple of the extras there as those stripped for duty. We'll talk a little further about the possibilities that exist in that respect. I think we saw Brent Staker and Jamie Graham, and you just never know. We will be going down onto the ground during the next 3/4 of an hour and speaking to both coaches. Not that we really expect them to tell us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Well, the tension has been growing right through the campaign, and it now reaches its zenith on Grand Final Day. And, of course, Grand Final week began at the Crown Palladium on Monday night with the 2006 Brownlow medal count. And, of course, we had the Swans assembled in Sydney, the Eagles assembled in Perth, and it was the Swans who came out on top. We used to ask the question, will this unbalance the team or the individual in any way? But we're getting used to it. 7 times in the last 10 years, we've had a Brownlow medalist playing in the grand final team.
Yeah, I think the results show that you're probably more likely to lose a grand final when you get a Brownlow medalist in it. However, that's not impossible. There have been winners, of course, in recent history.
And Adam Goodes is a winner. He joins the Immortals, just one of 12 now to have won it more than once.
Yeah, quite incredible. To win one Brownlow is a massive achievement, but to win two just tells you what a quality player he is. We're all looking at that, maybe that possibility of Adam Goodes playing on Chris Judd today. Wouldn't that be a sensational matchup? But look, two great players, but what a wonderful effort by Adam Goodes to go two Brownlow medals. Sensational.
Let's just, before we go to a break, talk about what has been the issue that has come from the combat between these two teams since they met in Perth in this final series, and it is the matter of the Swans forward set-up and what the Eagles have done to combat it.
Well, this will be interesting. The Sydney Swans set their forward line up so well. They often only have 2 or 3 forwards up there, and of course the main men. And we have a look at the West Coast Eagles. Their forward line is so often crowded, as we're seeing here. John Worsfold likes to play with the 6 forwards, so there's 6 Swan defenders there, and then the Swans, they'll put midfield players back there. And this is the break late in the game, isn't it? This is just the magnificent bold run and carry and dare that Sydney undertook to get the goal that eventually won them the game. And they can play this way. They can play rapid-fire handball, run, carry, and then get it into a forward line like this, where they've only got a couple of players, and that puts real pressure on the Eagles' defenders. Now, you might say a little bit of luck with that fist of Banfield's going over the back, but they took advantage of it because they just didn't have too many opponents to beat there. And I think, Malcolm, to me, that's the key to this game, whether John Worsfold will get an extra 1 or 2 back to stop Hall and O'Loughlin on that lead.
Look, I don't think he will start with. I think he'll go with what he knows is best, what they've been successful with. But last week against the Crows, they did actually throw a couple extra back, Rob, just in last quarter when it got a bit tight. So that was interesting, that there is going to be a movement depending on the scoreboard, I'd say.
Take a break. When we come back, we will be going down to the West Coast rooms and we will seek to just establish how John Worsfold and his West Coast Eagles are going to go about it on Grand Final Day 2006.
Jonathan Brown and Carr. David Goliath. This is Alistair Lynch and Darryl Blake. Oh, gee. This is 1958 revisited. It's the bloodbath.
Eagle fans have flown to Melbourne in big numbers. At the Grand Final parade yesterday, the city was absolutely thick with them. It was quite a talking point that despite the Swans' historic base here in Melbourne, they were well and truly outnumbered by fans who, the majority of whom had made the trip across the Nullarbor, sensing that this might be their time. They've played in 10 final series since their last flag under Mick Malthouse in 1994, so they are due to crack it. A great sense of expectation, and no doubt Tim Gossage, who's lurking outside the West Coast rooms, can feel it. Tim, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Tim. Absolutely. The Eagles players, as we saw just moments ago, arriving, and John Worsfold surprisingly relaxed. He plays his poker face in the lead up to any big game, doesn't give too much away to the media or to the public for that matter, but looked very relaxed in the parade, looked very relaxed when he got off the bus. So too Ben Cousins, a nod and a wink, the typical Ben Cousins cheeky grin, and as soon as he went in the rooms, Ben Cousins, he went up to ground level. He was the first player up to ground level just to get a feel of the atmosphere. The rest of the group inside the rooms, I can tell you that the emergencies all travelled inside the rooms and off the bus. Jamie Graham, Matt Rosa and Brent Staker. There is an air of confidence amongst this West Coast Eagles group.
Do you think there'll be any change?
I don't think there is. I think what Daniel Kerr has done with the 10 minutes of training here and there and going off early, he's been doing that since he injured his calf in the Brisbane game. That's been par for the course. I think they'll go in as named.
Thanks for that, Tim Gossage, who will be out on the ground in a little while. We hope speaking to the West Coast coach, John Worsfold. It did look as though Worsfold might be faced with an odious choice between his veteran and former teammate Drew Banfield and David Wirpunda, but they're both in.
I must admit I was surprised, because the guy that was dropped the week before was Banfield he replaced Wirpunda. I honestly thought that Banfield would miss. I was surprised that Graham's missed.
Steve, Wirrapunda and Banfield, they both pretty much play as back pocket players. Do you think there's a chance that Wirrapunda could be used as a forward at some stage in this game?
Every chance, I think, Rob. Look, I thought Banfield did a reasonable job last week. He made a couple of mistakes, but his opponent only got a handful of touches in bow. Wirrapunda can play forward. We've seen him go forward on occasions, and against Lynch, who does bring the ball to ground often, he tends to sort of drop a couple. They do need it crumbing forward. Sampy has been there in the past, not playing today. I think he's the likely one to be pushed forward.
Of course, the most likely pinch-hitting forward is Adam Hunter. It is quite extraordinary, isn't it? He's done it, I think, in all 4 games against the Swans that we have illustrated in the last little while, and we'd expect that unless everything goes right, he'll do it again today.
He's an amazing player. They generally start him in defence, and when they get a couple of goals behind, they move Adam Hunter forward. He'd be one of your favourites, Malcolm, because he's a good old-fashioned pack mark.
Yeah, he is a terrific mark. Keeps his eye on the ball. He's a lovely kick too. The thing that I mean, it's fantastic when he does go forward. Who actually picks up an O'Loughlin if Hunter does go forward? I would have thought Graham would have been the perfect scenario. You look around now and they're going to have to invent something.
We just wonder whether maybe a Waters or a Butler or maybe even a Stengeline's pushed back.
Yeah, and even a Daniel Chick, Steve.
Yeah.
He played on O'Loughlin for a few minutes in their last match. So I think there's a few players there who... Because O'Loughlin pretty much is on the lead, isn't he?
The Shane Ellen factor, perhaps we should explain for youngsters among us. Malcolm Blight, he kicked, I think, 5 goals in his career before the 97 Grand Final. You played him at full forward. We're talking there about those who might bob up and kick a few.
Yeah, the surprise factor. It's interesting, isn't it, that stat, that the Eagles have it, but the Swans don't, because they play a much, much more rigid forward line. Generally only 3 or 4 players in it, so less likely to kick goals. It's fascinating, though, the Eagles have that many. They've kicked 3+ goals for the year.
Sauce, you've played at both ends of the ground. If you were Hunter, would you like to start down the back half and then go forward as the case demanded it?
I guess going into a game, I always felt there was more pressure as a backman than starting forward. I guess it was
Of course you would, Stephen.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry, mate.
But just from a comfort point of view, someone's got to mind you. But I just think Adam Hunter's been such a great player in the back line. He does give him a lot of stability there, and why do you change that? And I actually want to ask Malcolm that. How difficult is it when you're a coach to know that he is your main move? Do you play him back or do you start him forward? Because there must be a little trigger there saying, well, do I do it halfway through the game or do I do it to instigate the initial part of the first quarter?
I don't think he can do it this year in the Grand Final. I think he's going to do the same thing. Hunter will start back and go forward. I'd like to see Adam Hunter at some stage next year just given a block 3 or 4 weeks at full forward and see what he can do. They might get a 100-goal kicker out of it. Who knows?
Well, we've talked about the Eagles. We're going to turn our attention to the Swans shortly, the defending champions who have done it again. And their win over West Coast in Perth really was an upset, and it has set up the finals campaign for them absolutely perfectly. Yet they still come here today as the underdogs with the bookmakers. When we come back, we will be going down to the defending champions' rooms and hearing from a former player, Neil Cordy. Never had it so good. Sydney hadn't won a premiership for 72 years. South Melbourne, the Bloods hadn't won one in all that time until last year, and here they are back at the MCG with another shot at it in 2006. And what's more, they come here having had a week's rest during this finals campaign. Let's go down to the Sydney rooms. Former Swan Neil Cordy is waiting outside. What's the news down there?
Tim, more of the same, actually. They talk about Groundhog Day. They're in the same rooms, and you might remember last year they had a problem with the heating. Well, it's happened again. When they got here about an hour ago, that is the trainers, that was a little bit too hot for them. They asked for the air conditioning to be turned down and opened up all the doors, but it's a comfortable temperature for them right now.
It looks as though they brought their own interior decorator, red floor, white walls, cords, no possibility of any change.
Extremely unlikely. Again, like last year, they will go in with a very settled lineup, and any late changes would be highly unexpected.
No sound of babies crying down there?
No, but as I was saying before, they've had some experience this year. Michael O'Loughlin spent the night on a hospital floor before the round 16 match against Richmond when his baby daughter was born, so it's just par for the course for the Swans.
What a fortunate position it is for a team when the worst thing that could happen is that one of the players' wives might give birth in the 24 hours or so around the grand final. But all is well for Sydney, and on they go, making so few changes to this lineup. It is quite extraordinary. Terry Wallace came up with the suggestion, Robert Walls, as we have a look at them enjoying the rather more temperate waters around Sydney's beaches than those that players down in Melbourne have to put up with during the midst of winter. The Wallace theory was that because they play this close-down kind of game, there are less high-speed collisions and therefore perhaps fewer injuries.
It's an interesting theory, isn't it? There are more stoppages in Sydney games than any other clubs, and Sydney will be aiming for at least 100 stoppages today. I think that's the statistic to look out for, but they certainly get into the pool and they get into the salt water, and you can see there the sturdy Swans. Games missed under Paul Roos, and Adam Goodes hasn't missed one. That's 108 games in a row under Paul Roos. Leo Barry just the one, and so it goes. So
I think a couple of really interesting aspects to that are that Halls were a suspension in Roos's first month as coach. He came back for the last 2 games of that season following suspension, kicked 7 and 5 goals, and really spelled out what we might be in store for in the years to come.
I think they'd be the first 6 pick, maybe 6 of the first 7 pick. How good's that to have your core group for 2 seasons, 4 seasons together? Amazing stat.
And the other thing is, Steve, their backline, and I know you've worked with their backline, there's just a great understanding because it's pretty much the same 6 who go out not just week after week, but year after year.
Well, I think when you look at the premiership teams of the past, their backline's generally steady. They generally keep the same 6 throughout the season, and Sydney have been able to do that over the last 2 or 3 years.
There have been moments during this 2006 season where it looked as though the Swans were having trouble recapturing the sharpness of appetite that they showed throughout 2005. You recall they lost their first couple of games, one of them to Essendon, who went close to winning the wooden spoon. Then through the middle, they lost 4 out of 5. After the third of those defeats, a heavy one against Adelaide, the coach, Paul Roos, spoke of the difficulty of going back-to-back, of maintaining the appetite required for the job.
I suppose the main concern is just the lack of hunger. You know, you've got a hungry team in Adelaide that, you know, against the team that won the premiership last year that's lost the hunger. Yeah, hopefully the concern is for us, you've got to get it back. You know, if you don't get it back, your season's, you know, goes down the tube pretty quickly. I suppose it's one of those unknown things in sport, and that's why it's hard for teams to go back-to-back because, you know, it is, you are playing against sides that haven't won premierships and your team has. You know, only sort of 9 months ago. So at the moment, it just seems there's a lack of, you know, real desire to want to be able to do it again.
Malcolm, having done that in 97, 98, would you echo those remarks?
I would actually. I don't think it's anyone purposely sets out to do. No player says, gee, I'm not going to play, I'm not as hungry this year. I mean, they all like the feeling. But what you do, you start to get a bit individual. And I think that's what happened to Swans. And about that time, the Nick Davis scenario blew up. There was a few things happening off the ground that didn't look good. Roosie obviously established that was the case. And the senior group then took over and said, let's do this again.
Let's go to our fly-in coaching consultant, Guru Silvani, who has been taken to Sydney during the week to try and give Lewis Roberts-Thompson a bit of a lift. Sauce, what's been happening?
Not a lot, Tim. I was actually rung up with the Swans, and I obviously had to clear it with the Bulldogs throughout the week. But I just had a bit of a chat to him. Probably didn't have a great game against Fremantle, but look, Louis had a really good year. He's had a solid year, but probably his last 1.5 games haven't been fantastic, and just had a word throughout the week with him.
Stephen, did you actually go out on the ground with him and have a bit of a kick with him?
I did, and it was only, I reckon, about probably 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of his tape work and something I did with him last year, and spent about half an hour all up on Thursday, I think it was. So hopefully he plays a good game.
Steve, he'll play on Ashley Hansen, we believe.
I think he would. The last couple of times he's taken Ashley
What's
Hansen.
he need to be aware of?
Well, we probably know that Ashley, he's a presenting player. Last week against against Adelaide, he took 11 marks, 10 of them uncontested. So he's very much up the ground, really good endurance, lays the ball off when he marks the ball. So he just needs to be with him on the lead.
It's Grand Final Day 2006. We are at the MCG. The big game is just over an hour and a half away. The players will be on the field warming up shortly. We'll be out there when we come back. Coming on foot, they're coming by train, they're coming in cars, they've flown from one side of the country to the other, and some of them are dropping out of the sky. Everyone wants to be at the MCG on Grand Final Day. Goodness knows how many we'd have here if the ground could hold 500,000 or more and everyone had a decent view. Let's go down onto the ground now. Sydney's coach, Paul Roos, is with Neil Cordy.
Yes, thanks, Tim. Paul, it was a bit different last year. You had a Barry Hall Tribunal case. Now you've got a Brownlow medal and the birth of a child.
Yeah, it was an exciting week. Grand Final week's exciting any way you look at it, but to have a Brownlow medalist and a birth of a child is very exciting. So both those boys are pretty focused now.
Paul, good luck today. Obviously a big one for you. Darren Jolly, since he's taken over the ruck responsibilities, I think he's been outstanding for you, leading with the hit-outs, and obviously today's crucial up against Dean Cox.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the rucking battle is going to be pivotal. They've got a great midfield, and our guys work very hard as a midfield unit together. But, yeah, whoever gets first use of the ball is going to go a long way to winning the game. So hopefully Darren Jolly and Stephen Dorr can do very well today.
Rosie, well done. Back-to-back Grand Finals, but Adam Hunter, are you expecting him to line up forward, or do you think he'll go start up in his starting position at centre-half back?
We've got a little bit of mail, and there's that much mail floating around in Grand Final. We've got a little bit of mail that he may start forward. Daniel Chick on Mick O'Loughlin, Jones on Keith. But look, I mean, that'll sort itself out in the first 5 minutes, and yeah, you plan accordingly either way.
Paul, you've the weather. If you could have ordered it, you've got the best day. Have you had a look at your finals night and day? Do you prefer the day?
Look, we've played a lot of night finals, but obviously you're aware that the Grand Finals played at day. Yeah, look, it's perfect down here. There's no wind. Look, I think it's going to suit both sides. I don't think there's too many good wet weather teams in the AFL anymore because we don't play in the wet conditions much. So, look, conditions are perfect for us and obviously perfect for them.
And finally, Paul, you look very calm as you always do. Do you feel it? And is it a sense of challenge, or do you just feel sick with nerves?
Look, I guess you try to sort of tell yourself that your work's already done, because from a coaching point of view, mainly today is about maintenance of players, looking at matchups, seeing what they're going to do. So, look, most of our work is sort of done. It's going to be a nerve-wracking 2 hours, but you try to remain calm and try to enjoy the day if that's at all possible.
Well, we wish you all the best in your quest to do that and in your quest for the flag. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
Paul Roos, the coach of Sydney, and what an extraordinary career it has been. The man who the club in the first instance didn't want, and player power and people power came to the fore, and he has been quite amazing. He is one of your boys, Robert Walls,
yes,
from the early 1980s at Fitzroy. Is he the guru of the modern day? Because the Swans play probably as unique a game as there is in modern football, and they're the most successful team.
Well, they're the most selfless team. They actually play for each other better than I've ever seen any team. And I mean that. They will sacrifice, they will put their bodies on the line for each other, and they can play different brands of football as required. They kicked 19 goals last week in that final, and yet we know they can win a Grand Final by only kicking 8. So they can adapt. They play tempo football. And here we see the West Coast Eagles just having a nice little loosen up.
We can get down to Tim Gossage, who will be with the West Coast Eagles coach, John Worsfold.
John Worsfold here. John, shade under 90 minutes. How are you feeling?
Yeah, very good now. I'm pretty nervous this morning, but getting to the ground, you know, our preparation's underway, and feeling really good.
Is there any such thing as a perfect preparation? And if so, have you had one?
Well, I think your preparation has to be perfect. You know, there's things that can go wrong that they're out of your control, but you deal with those, and that's about being perfect in getting ready. So, no, everything's gone as well as we could expect, and we've dealt well with it.
We know what your stars can do, and we mention them every week, Cousins, Judd, Kerr, but it's your second-tier blokes. Blokes have played 30 to 50 games. You've got a feeling that they have to step up today to win this one?
Well, yeah, they've done it for 2 years. You know, our team has performed extremely well over the last couple of seasons, and it certainly hasn't just been on the back of the superstars. It's been a real good effort by you know, all the guys involved, and even the guys that haven't got a run today. So, no, we've got all faith that our 22 is good enough to win. And
your 22 are out there. I see your 3 emergencies are standing on the sideline, so everyone's fit and well.
Yeah, they are. It's a great position to be in.
A lot of people from Western Australia, John, here and in Western Australia, cheering for you, mate. So good luck in your 5th grand final.
Thank you.
So both coaches looking quite serene about it all.
I'd love to have asked him one last question. How many of the younger players have come up and said, can you confirm what I've actually got to do again today?